All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Mindgasms. We got the brain trust of three balding guys here, and we're going to give our genius thoughts about all of these political issues. Of course, I've got Tubin here, aka Christian Brothers, and Dusty, aka Woke Centrist, aka Saint Javelin Centrist, and I am Andrew Pretty Hair Mindgasms, and we are talking. Oh, wait, that's the wrong banner there. We are talking about some political issues here today, of course. And we're talking about the whole Russia-Ukraine situation. WTF, what the fuck is going on in Russia and Ukraine? And of course, Trudeau recently repealing the Emergencies Act for the trucker Freedom Convoy here in Canada. And also Biden's recent State of the Union address a couple days ago. So that'll be interesting to get into all of that. And I guess let's start off with the Russian Ukraine stuff. So I think both of you guys have maybe looked into this a little bit more than me, but I've read a little bit about it and watched a few videos and seen some kind of deep dive analyses on podcasts and whatnot. So, but yeah, I think that's probably a good place to start. So, well, I'm not sure whichever one of you guys wants to start off. What's your I see the standard kind of politicized takes on this whole Russia-Ukraine situation. Like, lefties tend to be more anti-war and having the expressing the sentiment, what the fuck are you doing talking about putting boots on the ground in Russia and all that kind of shit, even though Putin is obviously a bad guy. And then all the way to the other right end of the spectrum advocating for starting fucking World War III or shit like that. But what do you guys think? What's your take on the situation as far as we know?
Should we all talk in Russian accent?
Yes, we should talk in Russian. I am Russian puppet. I serve Putin.
I know there's kind of different opinions across the board. I know recently Lindsey Graham got condemned by both the left and the right for advocating assassination for Putin.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, that wasn't a good look. And I know there's been alternate views, kind of weird flip-flopping views on Fox, at least, because I know Tucker Carlson is kind of in the Putin camp, but you have other personalities on Fox News also calling for the assassination of Putin.
Right.
So it's kind of strange. And then you have Trump, which is even weirder.
Yeah. He said Putin's a genius, and then he said this is the Holocaust 3 days later.
Oh, he actually condemned it now? Is that how he's going now?
Yeah, something like 3 days after he said Putin's a genius, he said, "This is terrible, Putin's awful, this is like the Holocaust."
Yeah, so what happened is initially he came out with his true feelings about the matter, and then all of his advisors are saying, what the fuck are you doing? Are you are you trying to tank yourself here? So he kind of changed his mind. But we all know, the first shit that comes out of Trump's mouth is how he truly feels about it, and then he turns tail and the establishment goes up to him. It's usually probably Hannity that calls him behind closed doors and say, "Hey, you can't say anything like that.
Yeah,
you gotta kind of have to reverse your position there," and then he goes and does it.
Yeah.
So it's always interesting because we know how Trump likes to flip flop constantly and stuff, and then how whenever he says something that's against the conservative dogma, I remember once he was kind of advocating right after, I think it was a Parkland shooting, he's like, yeah, maybe we should look into this gun control stuff. And then like a day later, he got like super like Second Amendment all of a sudden. So
Yeah.
I don't know. This whole war is. Have you seen this like 30-minute mini documentary about well, it's called like the true reason behind the invasion?
No, I haven't.
It's
Have you, Chris?
it's interesting. Uh-oh, Chris,
Sure.
we don't. You're really low there.
Is it on YouTube?
Yeah, it's on
Yeah.
YouTube. I know Kyle references the video, but Kyle's video, the title is like, "Oh yes, this invasion is just like Bush's Iraq War."
Oh, I saw that I saw his video. I didn't remember. I guess I didn't remember him analyzing that specifically in it. I just remembered his take on it.
Yeah, so that comes from another video, which kind of it's really interesting. So it describes like the geopolitics and the military ramifications of NATO and kind of Russia's version of NATO, which I think only three countries are in. It's like
Oh,
Russia.
I haven't heard of that before.
Yeah, it's called like CSTO or something. So it's Russia, Belarus, and some other country. That's why you have Belarus joining in on this attack because they're part of like they're a Russian NATO. So apparently, Ukraine has a shitload of natural resources, and right now Russia is the only petro-state in Europe, and it's said that Ukraine has like enough newly discovered natural resources to become the second largest petro-state in Europe.
Oh, okay. That makes sense then for that being one of the I'm sure many main factors in this whole situation, because in all of the recent wars over the last decades, one of the major factors is that a country being invaded has a lot of natural resources, or a surrounding country, and we've already talked about before the whole thing with I forget what it's called, but the pipeline that people were talking about in terms of Russian interests and Ukrainian interests, and even other European interests and Chinese interests and American interests too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nord Stream.
Yeah, because I know the Nord Stream pipeline kind of bypasses Ukraine, but there are some other pipelines that go through Ukraine, and Russia has to pay a tariff anytime they use it. And from what I've heard, the tariffs run like the billions of dollars for them to pay Ukraine to use that pipeline. Also, if you go back to Crimea, Crimea and the oceans around it actually have a lot of natural gas deposits. So Russia decided well, there's a lot of political factors. So before Zelensky was the president of Ukraine, the president of Ukraine was a pro-Russian president. So he was like totally in bed with Russia. And if you remember, there was kind of like this overthrow in Freedom Square. I remember it was like a big deal, and they kind of forcefully deposed that puppet president, and that's when they started having free elections. Now, one of the other things that happened was right after they deposed this pro-Russian president, they discovered that there were natural resources in Crimea and the seas surrounding it. Because Ukraine is a relatively poor country, and they didn't have like the money to develop the extraction methods, or the money to develop or sustain or even start like offshore extraction. So they actually gave BP and other oil companies rights to drill, in exchange for some type of loyalty or whatnot. And that's when Russia started their invasion. But as that happened, those gas companies that were going to extract those resources pulled out because of, it was going to be too risky for them to continue to operate there. So basically, Russia caught wind that Crimea had a lot of resources, which is why they took over that. And there's also a lot of gas resources on the western and eastern tips of Ukraine as well. So they're going after those. Like this whole reason that Zelensky, the Ukrainian Jewish president, is a Nazi is pretty ridiculous. That was one of their motives for invading. That and to free these provinces that are pro-Russian.
Oh, that aspect of it is interesting. Do you want to just get into that aspect of something about how Nazis are supposedly involved with one specific part of the Ukrainian military, and then some mainstream, I think particularly American mainstream media shows were inadvertently showing some Nazi propaganda, training grandmas and people like that to fight the Russians?
I didn't hear about that. What I do know, though, is, yeah, there is kind of like this mercenary group in Ukraine that is, I wouldn't say that the group itself is white supremacist, but there are a lot of white supremacists within that group that operate.
Oh, okay.
I think one of the stories you were talking about, because the Chechens are also on the side of the Russians and are sending forces through. So one of the things that this mercenary group was doing was coating their bullets in pig fat, because Chechens are like
I saw
Muslim.
something about that, but I didn't look into that. Why were they doing that?
Because Chechens are Muslim, so any ingestion of like pork is like a huge sin. So they're being shot with like pork embalmed bullets.
That's
So,
holy shit, that's ridiculous. Wow.
to really hit home, like those,
We're
yeah,
gonna
just
make
like
you eat pig fat.
I don't know if it's like so bad that they go to hell or something. I really don't know, but yeah, they're basically shooting them with pig fat grease bullets. It's kind of crazy.
Wow.
I wonder like how that's gonna fuck up their weapons and whatnot. Like I don't think bullets are supposed to be greased,
Yeah,
but
probably.
I can tell you if that's for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah,
So
we're funding. I know people are kind of comparing the funding of these groups to like how we funded the what the hell is
Mujahideen? Yeah,
Mujahideen in Afghanistan. They're
right.
kind of comparing it like that, but there are people that say that they should kind of distance themselves from this mercenary group. I also understand that Ukraine is incredibly desperate. So at this point, they're just going to ally themselves with anybody that can fight on their behalf, it seems, even if white supremacy is involved. But I don't think any of the U.S. I don't think the U.S. is directly like equipping that mercenary group. I believe they're not, but it would make sense though that some of the stuff that we're giving Ukraine probably gets trickled down to them.
Yeah, yeah. And we were talking about that aspect last time too, about how one thing that seems to be good about what Biden is doing is that, well, debatably good, I guess, is that the Americans are selling weapons to the Ukrainians to use against Russia, but they're not actually attacking Russia or anything like that. So that could be a lot worse.
Yeah, so they are providing arms. I don't even know if they're selling them, so to speak. I don't know.
I don't know the
They might
specific
just be
details
giving
about
us
that.
the weapons. Because Ukraine is not like a super rich country. Like they don't, like I was trying to explain, they have resources that are untapped. So they could be pretty rich, but they didn't really get the opportunity to be rich because that's when, as soon as Russia caught whiff of that they had these resources, that's when they started to invade the areas that the resources were at. So,
Okay.
yeah, these guys are pretty desperate. And one of the things I have to note is that people are like way too happy that Russia hasn't conquered Kiev, and they're complaining, oh yeah, look, they haven't conquered Kiev yet. Yada, yada, yada. One thing I have to say is that it took 3 weeks for us to get Baghdad. So it's not really comparable, saying, oh, they should have been able to roll over and get to the capital already and all that. But
yeah, that's a good point.
Things don't happen that quick. Like when we were in Iraq, it took us 3 weeks to take over Baghdad.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, they're not trained. Like, apparently there's been a few POWs captured, or the Ukrainians captured a few Russians, and kind of if they had done any training, and most of them were just like signed up and told, hey, you're going here this day. So there was limited like thought put into this, I think. It's not like they were training for months or weeks.
No, they're just throwing bodies out there. So that's like the big difference. Like you have these conscripted forces, which are just like people who are forced into the military to invade some other country for no good end. And you have kind of the same thing happen on the Ukrainian end, except that they're actually protecting their homeland. It's a big difference. Like people are going to be more motivated to protect their homelands rather than to go to some other country that hasn't even attacked them.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and also like in terms of the Iraq War, the Bush administration lied about accusing Saddam Hussein of having weapons of mass destruction. So that's obviously very different from the Ukrainians just defending themselves against the Russians. Like they didn't, the Russians aren't even claiming that the Ukrainians attacked them, right?
Well, the Russian lie that's being perpetuated, and I don't know how much of the Russian populace is just kind of eating this lie up. So going back to how Putin is accusing the Ukrainian government of being Nazis, he's told his own people that in these disputed areas where there are like these Russian separatists, he's telling people that there's a genocide and that people are killing off Russians in these areas. So he's trying to use that as kind of a motivating force. Whereas,
wow. Okay. I hadn't heard that. I had just heard that. I had only heard that his excuse was that I think we were talking about before about how due to the restructuring of the USSR after the Berlin Wall fell at the end of the Cold War, that Ukraine isn't a real country, so it's part of Russia anyway. So it's basically
that's another one.
My country. Yeah.
Yeah, that's another one of his excuses, that he's like, oh, we've built up Ukraine, so really it's ours and we want it back.
Right.
It's, Russian imperialism. It's plain naked Russian imperialism.
Yeah.
And another reason is because of, and it's really interesting, this like mini documentary. It shows how the layout of certain countries make Russia vulnerable. And if Russia were to take over Ukraine, if NATO were ever to launch ground forces to I don't know, what do you want to call them? Like, they're basically the new USSR, but if NATO for any reason has to launch ground forces to Russia, right now it's wide open, and Ukraine is very flat. So if they were to enter through Ukraine, they wouldn't have much difficulty. If Russia did happen to take over Ukraine, then the only entry point would be in Poland. And Poland, the terrain on the border is very rocky, and it would be easy to create a bottleneck there.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that in terms of the geography and the terrain. We should ask Polish Christian Bale what he thinks about this, because he lives in Poland, of course, right? Oh, I talked to Mike Spencer Bound, who I've talked to before, who is from Mixed Mental Arts also.
He's in Ukraine right now, right? Or did he get out?
Well, he spends a lot of time in Ukraine and Russia. So I asked him like if he's safe with everything going on, and he said he's actually back in Okotoks, Alberta, which is where he's originally from right now.
So he made it out.
But he actually tried to make it back into Russia, but they wouldn't let anyone in when he tried to get back in. And he said he has friends there who travel a lot too, or are hiding in people's basements and shit. He says it's a shit show there.
Yeah, because I know Russia now, they impose like some super totalitarian like news blockage. I think they blocked Facebook and Twitter, and if you talk shit about their position in the war, it's like you can spend 15 years in jail for that.
Holy shit! Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty nuts. But even like some of these oligarchs are starting to rebel. I know a lot of their assets, their global assets, are being seized, like entire like super yachts and things like that. I know there's been some criticism about like the severity of the sanctions. Like I think Kyle is against the severity of the sanctions, and he wants the sanctions to only affect the oligarchs and Putin. I actually don't think that's enough, to be honest. Like you gotta put pressure on everybody over there. There might be enough pressure to put on the people themselves, like, hey, let's do something about this, you know.
So what sanctions and or other measures do you think should be done?
Well, I think the current sanctions are fine.
Okay.
Their economy is tanking pretty badly right now. I think everyone's trying to make a run on the banks, and none of their banks can operate with any Western banks at the moment. Well, not fully, but it has reduced their ability to trade. Like it's gone so bad. I think even China has put some of their deals on hold with Russian banks, and that's kind of
I hadn't heard
to me.
I had heard they that China were sounding sympathetic towards Russia at first, so that's interesting.
Well, the funny thing is, I think they didn't do it for a moral reason. I think they did it purely for financial reasons, because economically shit is tanking so bad in Russia that the Chinese don't see it as a good investment to continue to do business with them. So they halted efforts. Like, I don't believe it's a moral thing. I don't think, oh yeah, we're against the invasion, so we're gonna stop.
I highly doubt that any of the politicians involved here are doing it for moral reasons, to be honest.
Yeah, especially.
Well, I think some of them are. I think some of them, like Europe, the way they work is the European Union has to get 100%. What do you call it? Like their vote, when they vote for stuff like this, it has to be all in or nothing. So
unanimous.
yeah, it has to be unanimous. All of them have to vote yes, and all of them voted yes on the sanctions, even though these sanctions will also hurt them economically because they receive a large part of their gas resources from Russia.
Okay.
So the sanctions are hurting kind of everybody in Europe. But of course, they're hurting Russia much, much more than the rest of Europe.
Okay. So you think this sanctions should still be done even though they're hurting other countries? I'm not saying I'm against the sanctions. I'm honestly like there's so much complex shit going on that I'm just kind of slowly trying to piece my own opinions on it together. It's hard to figure out what to think really.
Well, the sanctions, because what Putin tried to do is he tried to sanction-proof his economy by setting aside, I think it was like $680 billion or something. The problem is, and there's like a really good NPR Money podcast about it, which examines this fund. A lot of these funds were actually tied up in offshore investment. So his fund that was supposed to be his anti-sanction fund, parts of it have already been seized. I think most of it, most of it is not usable. And I think some of it is in direct gold. So in order to actually get the cash he needs for that, he has to find a buyer for that gold, and then he has to transport that gold because it's not currency. So yeah, he has gold, but it's not going to be easy to get cash for that gold.
Oh wow, it's literal gold. Oh wow.
Yeah, literal gold.
Okay.
And then like some of the assets are tied up overseas and they were frozen with the sanction. So some of that fund that he has is not there. And if you want to check it out, there's an NPR Money podcast about it that really goes into detail on how that fund got kind of, it didn't really help him that much.
Okay.
I don't think he gives a shit about sanctions though. Like I think like like
how come?
He's a billionaire and I don't know. Like I'm with you, Andrew. I think there's a lot going on here and it's hard to tell. And I also think like there's so much misinformation out there coming on both sides that I've kind of like, I won't believe anything until it's 48 hours later and it's been, approved and double stamped and all that. And even then I'm paying attention and but I'm not like, I'm trying to, throw it.
You're not like deep in the weeds on it.
I'm not deep in the weeds in it. And the other thing too is I'm very skeptical. And the reason I'm skeptical is because I don't believe news organizations that are reporting on this right now from any side. And because they've been wrong about so many things over the last like 5 years. Like it's not like they were like, we fucked up on COVID a little bit here and we fucked up on this and that here. And then we've got everything in Ukraine and Russia right. You know what I mean? And I see a lot of red flags because I see a lot of like people that are, just throwing up a Ukraine flag in their Facebook profile because it's the hit thing. You know what I mean? And these are the same people that bring up the same symbolism when it's like Pride Month or whatever. Not that there's anything wrong with Pride Month, but you know what I mean?
Right.
It's just these same kind of virtue signaling things that people do. And you're going to get that from online people. I'm just skeptical. I'm not saying that I'm like pro-Putin at all. I'm just, and I think my gut.
You are Russian puppet.
Well, I think like, ultimately at the end of the day, I think he took an opportunity here to strike a sovereign country he's getting older. His time is running out. He's like Putin's like 77 or something like that, or
no, he's 69. He
69. Okay,
definitely looks a little younger than he looks, but the reason that is people suspect that he uses Botox.
Okay.
So I think that
he also does martial arts too.
Yeah, he works out and that, but he's not like he's not in his 40s or 50s. His time of being a Russian.
Yeah.
No, he's like almost 70 years old.
Yeah, his time of being a Russian dictator is slowly running out, and I think that I think that he sees Biden as a weak president, and if he's going to strike, now is the chance to kind of do it.
Right.
But I don't know. That's what my gut tells me. Again, I'm no geopolitical expert at all. I
don't think so. Like, I understand, Biden's a weak president, but man, Trump doesn't like NATO, doesn't give a shit about NATO, and he's expressed that constantly as a president. It's like, why are we giving these guys money? It's a waste of money. And he really didn't want to be a part of it. So I don't think Trump would have been any better. Plus, he had like these, like all these sympathies for Russia. And what was the hardest thing he did? Expel some diplomats.
At the same time, though, like lefties like you and I follow, like such as Kyle Kulinski, who you mentioned, have pointed out that perhaps partially due to being provoked into doing this by the media, saying that Trump is all pro-Putin and stuff, Trump actually governed like a traditional neoconservative and was really harsh on Russia in terms of foreign policy during his presidency.
Yeah, I think this is honestly. I think Putin he's smarter than he looks. He pays attention to what's going on worldly, right? And I think that he wouldn't have done this under Trump's watch. He saw that Biden took office. He's not going to do it in the first couple months when Biden takes over. But like nothing happened with Hong Kong and all. The West didn't step in with that whole issue. Afghanistan was complete shit show. He saw that go down, and he thought, I don't know. I'm just guessing too, right? I'm not saying that.
Yeah, I don't think Trump would have done shit. Like, to be honest.
Well, I don't think we would have done shit either.
Like, we wouldn't have done anything. Like, even. Well, Ukraine's not part of NATO, and this is like Europe's problem.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we're not. Like, we're part of the negotiations. I know Biden put pressure on Europe to increase sanctions and stuff like that. But we don't have like a legal way to actually enter this conflict. Like, unless like Zelensky signed NATO documents, there's no legal way for us to enter this war.
Yeah. Well, and America doesn't have to be the fucking world police all the time.
That's kind of like what Trump was more about that than anybody else, because that was like his constant rhetoric was like, why do we need NATO? And I'm pretty sure that Putin loved Trump's denouncement of NATO, since NATO is the thing that Putin is most afraid of, right? So I just don't see, like, even like we said, Trump, after he attacked, he's like praising Putin. So I don't know how.
Yeah.
I don't know how like Trump being president would have made a difference. The only thing I would have seen is that he probably could have gotten away with it more with Trump in office.
Yeah,
because
maybe.
Trump doesn't like NATO, and we already saw like his reaction, like his initial reaction.
For me, I'm just trying to piece together why now, right? Like he could have done it 2 years ago if you really.
We don't know, because like I said, he was trying to build up his coffers to be sanction proof. I don't know if it wasn't until recently that his coffers were like, okay, we got enough money, let's go do our invasion now. Because I'm not sure how much money he had 2 years ago. when Trump was in office. You know,
yeah, I don't think it's financial. Like, Putin is a billionaire. I don't think it's financial for him. I think
doesn't his wealth partially?
So you say
we're all talking at once.
Putin
Chris, you go first. Chris, you go first. We're all talking at once.
I think he's rounding third base. He's coming home here. He doesn't have that much time left. He doesn't give a fuck about money. He doesn't give a shit about sanctions. He wants to be looked as a great Russian leader at the end of the day when this is all said and done. So by him trying to there's multiple things going on here. This isn't the only reason. And yes, Biden being in office, who knows? If Clinton was in office, would he have done this? If Reagan was in office, would he have done this? I'm not saying that if Trump was in office that he would have been the that's why he didn't attack here. I just think that he doesn't see Biden or the West in general, Trudeau included. I think he sees Trudeau as a complete fuck up, and Boris Johnson and whoever is on the opposite side of him is not being really strong right now. So why not attack, right? If he was going to do it, all these things kind of come into play, and that's why he's making this move right now. I don't think it's about money. And as far as sanctions go, the only reason I don't agree with sanctions and boycotting Russian vodka or any of that shit is just because it ultimately hurts more of the Russian people who probably want to have nothing to fucking do with it.
Yeah.
Than it does
that's true.
0.001% of the high Russian oligarchy or hierarchy.
I know, of course, you don't want to subject the Russian people to it, but Putin isn't personally funding the war. Like, all of this money comes from the economy that generates that. So regardless, Putin has all this money. It's like, where's the money tied up in? Is it in rubles? If it's all rubles, his wealth just went down by 40%. It's pretty significant at this point.
Yeah, that's a good point. The invasion has actually hurt the value of his own money.
Yeah, but I don't think he has like a DuckTales vault full of rubles just in that. He's got property. He's got like 18 mansions. He's got land.
But all of that stuff is isolated. Like, if any of that is off of Russian soil and in any Western territories, he doesn't have it right now. It's all been seized.
Right.
So all of that is like gone. It is gone. It's not a factor.
But to him, that doesn't affect him in everyday life, right? Like
No, it doesn't. But when all of your liquid assets are all contained within a country where your economy has been reduced by 40%, that definitely is going to hurt. It's going to hurt your ability to fund your war machine. I think the main reason for the sanctions is to reduce its capacity to wage war.
So,
unfortunately, it has to affect the people because the money, like, they're a petrostate, so it's not like, all this money is Putin's. Like, it's divided amongst the people, the populace, the oligarchs, and whatnot. So it's not like, you can sanction direct Putin, but that's not going to do much. He can just steal more money from his people.
Historically, sanctions haven't really done that great either, right?
We've never sanctioned them this bad before. This is the worst sanctions that have ever been imposed on anybody. This is, might even get to the level of the Treaty of Versailles. Who knows? We'll have to find out.
Hopefully not. I mean, it seems like, would you guys say that your disagreement about sanctions stems from perhaps the fact that you, Dusty, think that the sanctions are worth hurting the Russian people if it means that it stops Putin's war effort, but you don't think that's worth it, Chris?
Well, what I would say, I try to go into the shoes of what would I do if the sanctions were against America. What would I do? I would say, as a populace, it is our responsibility to pick the right leaders. I know in Russia it's quite different, as they don't really get to pick their leaders. But if America gets sanctioned, then I think it would have been appropriate, because at least the people could do something about the leaders that they pick. Russia, they technically can. Russia is all about violent revolution. They have that opportunity to them, So I don't know what to say about that, man. I think, and certainly in some capacities, Russia is not fucking North Korea. People can move about and participate in markets and shit like that.
Yeah. I mean, Putin's obviously authoritarian, but he's definitely nowhere near as bad as Kim Jong-un either. Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't think the Russian populace is, because Putin had a pretty goddamn high approval rating. I don't know what it is now that he started this war, but I know historically his approval rating has been quite high.
Okay.
So I don't know if the sanctions are trying to dissuade like the average citizen of Russia to say, this guy's doing a fucked up job.
Do you think those polls of what the Russian public thinks are accurate though? I mean, I'm not saying they're inaccurate. I'm just I've heard people say that there's reason to doubt their accuracy because because we know how corrupt Putin is.
Well, one of the things we have to remember too is that a lot of Western journalists have bureau chiefs in Russia, and they're not controlled by the Russian government.
Okay.
Like New York Times has journalists in Russia. They got journalists in Ukraine. Like all these places have Western journalists in them. If they're capable of trying to come to the truth of that matter, then it's certainly possible. But yeah, if it's coming from the government directly, like the high approval rating thing, I'm not sure if that's like a government thing or if people genuinely like Putin. But I think because like Putin's like their Trump, he's kind of a cult of personality in Russia. And
it's
I think there's a lot of people on that train. Yeah.
He's like the Trump figure there, right? So it's a mix of both. It's like people do actually think that he's a good leader.
He's like an intelligent Trump. He's not like dumb.
Yeah. No, what I mean is, well, again, like he just attacked Ukraine though for no reason. I don't see that as a really smart move.
No, I mean like rhetorically dumb. Like Trump is just rhetorically dumb. Like, he sounds like
Putin is less rhetorically unhinged and impulsive. Rhetorically so, for sure.
Well, I'm just saying, like, Trump speaks like he's in middle school. Like that's just kind of like a rhetorical kind of skills, and he kind of blathers and mumbles and talks about nonsense. Like if you read a Trump speech on paper, it's just like, what the fuck am I reading?
Yeah,
it's just going all over the place.
Listen, Putin is very strong. Okay, he's really manly, man. I really admire his manliness. He's so powerful and strong.
Yeah, I was more meaning that he's like a bullish type. Like Trump's like the bully masculine type, and Putin is the same kind of thing. This is why like they kind of enjoy each other, as they're both very similar in a way.
I think Putin is more.
But I don't think it's a good thing. I think it's obviously a bad thing. It's not a bad thing.
Yeah. I think because Putin has kind of like that Soviet spy training, that he's more of like a Carrie-Annan, Game of Houses, Game of Thrones type of guy. Like, he seems to have like these ulterior motives that he hides, and he knows what those motives are, but they're kind of like glassed in something else. Like he has like this facade, this public facade, but I don't know, it's kind of like the 340 chess that people say Trump does, except I don't think Trump is capable of 40 chess.
Yeah, he's like checkers.
But the thing is, I think Putin is capable of 40 chess because he was a spy. He was in the KGB. Like deception and stuff like that was kind of what he was trained in.
Sure.
So I think he's kind of he's using that old mentality, which is why, like, I think the war for him is truly about getting those resources. Because in this video I was watching, apparently, like Russia's child rate, like their what do you call it? Like their childbirth rate is declining, which means that their standing army is shrinking. They have less money than they used to, so they're trying to get resources in order to survive. That's what I'm thinking. Because why do people invade other countries? It's to grab whatever that other country has, pretty much. Like, I can't think of any other good reason other than, hey, I want those resources, I'm invading.
But wouldn't you put, like, the thing that, if we're going to do that as a strategic KGB assassin, wouldn't you?
Well, yeah, that's why he has this other story, this other narrative that's going on to make it justified. But what really is going on is he needs the money and wealth and resources that Ukraine can provide.
Yeah, but wouldn't you plan this better is what I was going to say. Sorry. Like the POWs that they've captured, the Ukrainians said they didn't do any training for this whatsoever. You think if you were going to do it, you know, if you were like a super spy and you could maneuver.
I don't think it's gone as bad as we think it has yet. I would say wait 2 more weeks. Like it took us it took the United States 3 weeks to get to Baghdad. Like, give it more time, I would say. I think it's premature to say that what they're doing hasn't worked or isn't working. I think we kind of need to see this play out to be able to judge that at this moment. Like, yeah, the thing about Russian like military and combat historically is that they've always thrown numbers and didn't care about what happened to those numbers, whether they defected or gotten mashed up in the meat grinder or what. It was just like, let's produce this, because that's kind of what you have to do when you are an authoritarian army. You have to just throw as much numbers as you can, because none of those people are truly loyal to you. So that's kind of what's happened historically with these types of countries.
Do they still have those kind of numbers? And do you think that they definitely will take Kiev then?
I don't know. I have no idea.
And do people disagree about this too? What do you think that Putin has designs to take over all of Ukraine and perhaps even more than that? Because people are disagreeing about that too.
Well, from what this documentary I found, he's definitely, I think, wants to capture the resource-rich spots. It just so happens that Kiev is located right next to one of those resource-rich spots, so he kind of needs to take it.
Okay. What do you think about
Kiev
that?
is near the border, man. It's not like deep in the middle of Ukraine. It's like what, less than 100 kilometers from the border?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, what do you think about that, Chris?
About him taking over for resources?
Yeah, and like whether, like how much of the Ukraine he intends on taking over, and whether he perhaps has intentions to try to take over other European countries.
Yeah, I don't think other European countries he would take over. I just see him taking over Ukraine. I think a better question would be like, how long does this go on for? You know what I mean? And what's the end game here? Do you really think that? I don't know. For me, and I'm not like I don't know Putin personally, but he doesn't seem like a type of guy that's gonna, just say, oh, you know what, I made a mistake here, guys, and just like, okay,
yeah.
These guys, they push and they push and they push and they push until it gets really gross, and it gets like really scary, right? And so I just why he's going this route now is, you know what I mean? I don't know. I'm curious more than I have answers, I think.
Yeah.
But
yeah, that like maybe you said that maybe he's doing Putin is doing this because he thinks that Biden is weak, but then if Trump was more favorable to Russia, which some people think he was, you would have thought that it would have made more sense for him to do this while Trump was president, because maybe he would have been more supportive of that.
Yeah, I just think that
I don't think I think Trump is like one page in like a 500-page book here. You know what I mean? I think like again, if maybe Canada had a stronger leader or Britain had a stronger leader, or you know what I mean? I think if the West in general is seen kind of like weak right now because of, it's not like it was 50 years ago where World War II, we were all kind of, the good guys or whatever. It's, I think, we all have super, like the United States has one of the most sophisticated armies ever, and probably could go into Russia and Ukraine and end this in like 48 hours if they really wanted to. Right. But I just think that, I think the West is seen globally kind of weak right now, and strategically, I think it was a good opportunity for. And hey, if it is resources, sure, I just think it's a good opportunity for Putin to make his move now. As to how long it goes and where this goes from here, I don't know, man. It's hard to say because I don't trust the media that's feeding me information right now on the left or the right. You know what I mean?
Right.
Did you guys hear about like Ghost Island, or what was it, Snake Island or whatever, or Ghost Island or whatever the hell that was?
No.
What's Snake Island?
What's that?
So apparently there was this fight that went down on an island there, and the over the radio, the Ukrainians told the Russians to go fuck themselves.
Fuck you, Russian warship.
Yeah, that story was debunked and turned out to be fake. And there was another one where they had like the Ukrainian supermodel that was also signed up in the war, and they had a picture of her with an assault rifle, but like somebody went through and said that assault rifle was actually like an air gun.
Oh, was that thing that Tim Pool reported on that supposedly just got debunked? I saw him saying something about Ukrainian Instagram models and that sort of thing.
Yeah, there's been a bunch, but I mean, the other thing too is like, I do think it's hilarious that like Russians and Ukrainians are super, like, if you were to place these people in Canada, they would be ultra right wingers. And I'm just speaking for the Canadian population and kind of my, Dunbar number here, but like all my people that were like anti-truckers last week are now like pro-Ukraine this week. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
I'm sure it lines up that way. And like people who were pro-trucker convoy are maybe saying like, dude, NATO is fucked up, if nothing else, at least. Yeah,
and both, like, they don't see the hypocrisy with the freedom. Although above all of that, obviously we can look at this and go, gee, the Ukrainian crisis is fucking 1,000 times more actual crisis than we ever experienced with their stupid emergency acts and truckers invading.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean? Sure. Like, I hope that if any Canadian paying attention to this puts a good perspective on this, as to like, there's actually people being bombed and killed right now versus like, Anyway,
no one was killed with the whole Freedom Convoy thing.
Yeah. I'll just say we have not gone into any direct conflict with Russia.
Yeah.
Pre-nuclear age. And the last thing that got close was the Bay of Pigs, which almost ended a nuclear war. This is why nobody wants to send troops over there.
Yeah, because it could lead to fucking nuclear war, which could end the fucking world.
Yeah. So I guess kind of Ukraine is kind of the sacrifice. And this is not like this shit happened. Crimea got taken over. No one was talking about anybody sending troops over there that I can remember. You know, we had Obama. I don't know if I don't think it really has much to do with, maybe he is strategically planning on, doesn't really matter if they are. I think his calculus is, okay, Republicans are more likely to go to war maybe than a Democrat, so I'll do it while a Republican is not in office. I don't think it has anything to do with, oh, this is a weak president or this is a strong president. I think it's just that Republicans tend to be war hawks, and there's kind of an establishment behind that. And we've seen it, you know, we've heard outbursts from some people like Lindsey Graham calling for assassination, talking heads on Fox to call for assassination.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's because of a specific president. I think it's because of which party's in power.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, Lindsey Graham should be shot for those fucking Twitter comments.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying, I don't think it'd be a good idea to like send troops. It's just, you know, it can escalate. It can escalate from there, and we don't know what the hell would happen.
Even drone strikes, which the president can just get legal through the FISA courts and not declare it as war by Congress. Even that's a fucking terrible idea too, especially because drone strikes are way less accurate than people claim they are.
Yeah.
And that can easily be seen as an act of war, of course.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they're trying to end the war early by assassinating Zelensky. I know they tried to do it 3 times so far, supposedly.
Oh, wow. Okay. I had heard of maybe 1 time. I didn't know about 3 times. Wow.
Yeah, it's like 3 times now. So apparently Russia thinks that he's definitely a factor of, you know, keeping the war effort alive. He's at least gotten, I think his charisma got Europe to do the sanctions. Like, I think he's definitely a factor.
Yeah, he's definitely used social media and all of that influence to garner support for sure. Although, mostly all these countries have done nothing but just send weapons or Starlink his way. But and
then we had the translator crying.
Yeah,
the crying translator. I know that helped him.
Yeah. Apparently, though, he's like an actor, or he used to be an actor.
So he's a comedian. So he's definitely got performance.
Oh yeah, the Ukrainian president, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a performer, that's for sure. Like, so, you know, that definitely probably helped him get elected, but he carries himself well, at least, you know.
Yeah, Trump's a performer too. That helped him get elected.
Yeah, he's a heel.
Well, they know they get show business, right? And unfortunately, a lot of these, like even here in Canada, it's like like Joe Rogan says, it's a popularity contest. The presidency or the prime minister, like whoever is the most popular wins, right?
Yeah, yeah, of course. Well, that's why one of the main reasons that Trudeau got elected in the first place is because of his pretty hair.
Yeah, yeah. If his father was never prime minister, you're right. He would have never. Nobody would have heard of him, and he never would have gotten elected before.
Yeah, I thought about this interesting coincidence. This is a good segue into, we were going to talk about how Trudeau repealed the Emergencies Act. I didn't think about until after we talked about this before that when Trudeau invoked the Emergencies Act, and of course we talked about how he had way less of a reason to do that because there was an actual Quebec separatist terrorist group, the FLQ, who kidnapped politicians and threatened to kill them in the 70s when Trudeau the Pierre Elliott Trudeau, Justin Trudeau's father, enacted that, and then he enacted that on the Freedom Convoy, who were protesting vaccine mandates against the evil Decepticons, of course. But I just think it's kind of interesting that it was his father who did it last time, and then he did it this time. Both Trudeaus did it.
Yeah,
So both of them did it?
Yeah.
He wanted to live up to his dad's expectations in some kind of weird way.
Yeah.
Kind of like the Bush Jr. and Bush Sr.
Yeah.
in
for
Iraq.
Sure. He tried to kill my daddy, so we got to attack him.
I don't know. Bush was funny, like at least.
Yeah.
Like I was, I think we were posting clips of State of the Union speeches by different presidents, and one of his State of the Unions was like the Axis of Evil one, which is kind of like an iconic George Bush speech. And I'm just like remembering his speeches, and at least he had a fucking brain. Like he was definitely one of the worst presidents in modern history when it came to
his policies,
like the impacts.
Yeah. We talked before about how people get mad. People get mad when we talk about how Bush was definitely a worse president than Trump in terms of the things he did. He was better sounding in his rhetoric.
Yeah, he was way worse. Would I trade a Bush for Trump? Hell no. Hell goddamn no, I would. I'd rather have a Trump. But man, I guess while Bush did fucking horrible things abroad, he was not bad for democracy.
Well, I mean, he did start the whole surveillance program on U.S. citizens, though.
Right, but he didn't get people. It was, I think it kind of started at the tail end of the Bush administration.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think it was him personally, because Trump is right when he says the deep state, because they do shit without authorization.
Well, especially like Dick Cheney when Bush was president, he was basically just running Americans. Well, I mean, as far as I've heard anyway, I haven't looked into this as deep as I should, but I mean, it seems like he basically ran Americans' foreign policy, and Karl Rove and people like that too.
No, I think there's always that. I mean, like we always complain about like Trump, Bush, Clinton, you name it, Trudeau, but like these are just figureheads. There's like always like a group of 100 people working underneath those, 100 different minds that are always controlling and that kind of stuff. But yeah, I think there's always kind of like a deep state. There's always been a deep state. Like I just finished that book Chaos about the 60s and the CIA and all that kind of shit. Kennedy never knew any of that was going on, right? MK Ultra or any of that kind of stuff, right? So yeah, same.
What was that? What was it? Operation Northwoods that the Joint Chiefs of Staff signed that they were going to do a false flag attack and paint a jet to make it look American to provoke Cuba into a war.
Yeah,
and then JFK vetoed it.
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff. Like even Area 51, most presidents didn't know what they were doing there.
Yeah.
There's probably a ton of shit that goes on at the Pentagon that they discussed that's never worked all the way up the chain.
It seems like with the Pentagon and Area 51 and things like that, like you and I've read those books by Annie Jacobson about those, right, Dusty? And like I've seen a similar documentary as her take on Area 51, which is that basically the stuff that people interpret to be aliens is secret spy plane and stealth plane technology that they were experimenting on and using to spy on Russia, and that they didn't want anyone to know about it. So, but like part of the reason that is that they just let the rumors of UFOs and aliens circulate because that's better than the truth that they're spying on Russia. And then Russia was doing the same sort of shit too, of course.
Yeah. But yeah, the deep state, I don't automatically dismiss that, but I also don't think the deep state is involved with fucking rigging the election for
against
Donald
Trump. I don't think that either. I also don't think that the FBI engineered the Trump supporters storming the Capitol on January 6th either.
Yeah, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So with the what do you think, Chris, about Trudeau repealing that Emergencies Act recently, like ostensibly because all of the supposed danger has been gotten rid of and all that sort of thing? How much of that do you think was due to political pressure, and how much do you think the supposed threat has actually gone away in comparison to how much there supposedly was in the first place?
Yeah, I mean, well, he did repeal it, which I think
that's good overall.
Give him credit.
Yeah. And
because you got to give him credit because we never repealed the Patriot Act.
Yeah, that's true. And he never repealed those powers that were extended from that sort of thing after January 6th events last year, right?
Yeah.
Right.
He did. Yeah, he did repeal it. So like, okay, yay. But at the same time, he looks like a moron because it should have never been implemented in the first place. Right?
Yeah.
Like saying earlier, you compared, like his father's last time they did it was because there was an actual violent threat. There's no violence here. They were protesting for like 20 plus days, right? And it only got violence when the police showed up with like the super police with like, armed guards and like the face masks and guns and all that kind of stuff. So the sad thing is,
you call them super police over here, they're just regular police.
Armored police. Yeah. Regular United States police showed up and that's when it got violent. But I don't know. You know what? Like, it's weird because I'm this is the way I look at it. I'm just being honest here. Is like, that happened and then Ukraine happened and nobody's talking about that. And well, nobody's talking about COVID anymore either. But I think the whole world was watching the trucker thing, right? Which was like kind of good in a way because you had some crazy shit going on, especially with the bank accounts. And the Tamara is still in jail right now. And I think that's a big discussion you're right, we should have in the West in general is about money and should governments be involved in seizing people's bank accounts due to political views and, cutting off donations for GoFundMe. Like, I think that's the thing that the conversation just stopped. And you know what? At the same time, if I'm being honest, maybe that's a good thing. There's a war that's actually going on that brought this into the picture. And maybe that's more important for us to be talking about versus like,
that's true.
Money or something like that. So, but both these things are, should be discussed.
But I mean, at the same time, too, one aspect of both of those that makes me think about is that we have everyone, us included, are commenting on other countries that we know very little about. Like everyone's commenting on the whole Russia-Ukraine situation. Everyone has their opinion about it, and then everyone, like every American political commentator, had an opinion about the whole Freedom Convoy trucker situation here in Canada too. Like we were talking about earlier, it's really hard to know the details about what's going on.
Which, as shitty as it is to have people like Jack Posobiec and Tim Pool and all these people saying pro-trucker, you know what I mean? And Tucker Carlson too, saying pro-trucker, but it showed a spotlight on something that, was obviously a flawed system here where you had the Canadian government, kind of infiltrating people's bank accounts for a protest. But that spotlight is gone. But what remains is no changes other than there's no more Emergencies Act. But those people never got their bank accounts back, or maybe it's the news hasn't been presented to me that they have gotten it back because everybody switched over to Ukraine, right? So
yeah,
it's hard to say. The news cycle moves so fast. It was awesome to have the pressure there, but like I said, there's a part of me that's like, fuck, this is stupid to complain about this shit when we actually got real world problems going on. Although, like,
I
there's
see what you mean.
I could do about
and
Ukraine.
also, like, there are things that are still problems, but you can compare them in terms of scale too. Like, what we've talked about this before, that we're all vaccinated twice, but against vaccine mandates. And I mean, I still think that, like, I'm not really a fan of protests in general, but I think people should be allowed to protest. And I don't think, and I think it's probably phenomenally exaggerated the extent to which the Freedom Convoy consisted of white supremacists and that sort of shit. But I think they still should have had the right to not be mandated to get vaccinated if they didn't want to, even though I disagree with them about the Decepticons themselves anyway. But at the same time, like you were saying, especially the potential of a fucking world war, if in the worst case scenario, if America attacks Russia, that's obviously a way bigger deal than that too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just we haven't moved that much. Well, we got rid of the passports beginning of March 1st, so that's a step in the direction.
Yeah.
And I think in the
States, sounds like you guys were harsher when it came to that stuff than we were here in the U.S.
We were what, sorry?
You guys were more harsher with those restrictions than the United States was.
I think overall it like in the US, how it depends on the state, it depends on the province here in Canada too. Like I think we've talked about this before too. Like in places like Ontario, where you are, Chris, and where my brother lives in Vancouver, where they're bigger cities and they tend to be much more left leaning. There have been harsher restrictions overall, but then in the more more conservative leaning provinces, like here in Alberta, they were less extreme for the most part, although there were like vaccine passports and that sort of thing too. But here, basically all of that stuff is gone now too, and it seems like that's been the case mostly, as far as I know.
Nowhere compared to, like, United States is like black. Like, if you look at the way Texas and Florida handled it versus New York and California, that's a black and white difference. We're here in Canada, Alberta and Ontario, it's very gray and gray. There wasn't that much of a difference, even though they're both conservative provinces with both conservative leaders. We acted just as the same as NDP out in BC acted, and you guys acted, right? You did have a vaccine passport. It was mandated. You just dropped it like a week ago, right? Like, same with masks. Masks are still going on here in Ontario.
I don't think we had vaccine mandates, but
no, we didn't have any federal or state.
But we did have the vaccine passports, and yeah, I didn't know that you guys still require masks there too. We just dropped the mask mandate thing just really recently. Yeah,
because the only mandates I can remember are like social gatherings. There were no like mandates forcing people to be vaccinated or to be like, I can't think of any. Like, if there were any mandates, they were all from private companies that required it.
Yeah,
okay.
There
was sorry, go ahead.
We had masking mandates and the passport. So
okay,
that's what I'm.
Yeah, there was an interesting thing about vaccine. No, it was mask mandates. Yeah, that happened recently. which I thought was interesting but also bad, is that our premier here in Alberta, he recently, not only did he get rid of the mask mandates, he said that he's trying, he hasn't done this, but he's trying to get through the bill that would say that businesses are not allowed to mandate masks, which I actually think is a bad thing, because to me, that's just as authoritarian as requiring that businesses require their customers to have masks. I think that it should just be up to the person either way at this point.
Yeah, I didn't hear about masks. I heard about the passport, though. Like, I think he was trying to get rid of the mandating of passports in restaurants. I didn't hear anything about the masks, though.
Yeah, if I was a rich business owner that didn't care about profits, I would say, all right, we'll have the mandate where you cannot wear a mask. And in our business, we're also mandating that you can't wear pants.
I think the market would ultimately decide that. Like, once everything actually opens up, but businesses, they should be allowed to have the choice, right? If you're a restaurant and you still want to have a mask mandate, then go for it. But I think, people will ultimately decide, if they can go to Kelsey's down the street and not wear a mask, or go across the street and, at a similar Kelsey's at Denny's and have to wear a mask, where are they going to eat, right? So,
yeah, because I'm trying to think if New York's mandate for vaccination, I'm not sure if it was municipal or if it was based off of the business. I'm not sure. It definitely wasn't a state mandate.
Yeah. Well, we had it mandated, and we just got rid of the passport March 1st. So we still have masks mandated here. So we're like miles behind everybody else. And I think it's just, everybody's paying attention to Ukraine right now, so they can just go at a snail's pace and announce everything to open up.
Yeah, the only mandates I was ever concerned about were basically the vaccine one, because that's definitely something that's pretty intrusive. To me, wearing a mask is like wearing socks and underwear. It's not really a huge deal. It's inconvenient, but it's kind of a far cry from having to get a shot.
Yeah. I definitely, if I had to choose between one or the other, I would definitely rather have mask mandates than vaccine mandates.
Yeah,
you shouldn't have either, though, for this.
Yeah, preferably, yeah, for sure.
But I'm thinking, there were some mandates that now I'm thinking about. I think if you wanted to play team sports in school, in a high school, you had to be vaccinated.
Yeah, they just lifted that here. So that was a rule here. They just lifted that. Although, like, what are these?
Okay.
I don't know.
Well, that was based off of the school district, so it wasn't something that the state handed down.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know what Decepticon paper is out there that says that this is based on science. So.
Yeah, according to the science on Decepticons, you should not play team sports.
So speaking of that convoy, we actually have one of our own now. And
I had heard that. I thought I had also heard that it's really small and people are exaggerating the strength or support for it.
I really don't know, like, what the size of the convoy is. I don't know if they've actually gone and disrupted anything, but I do know kind of the wind in their sails kind of got blown out from them with the State of the Union.
Oh, okay.
Because like the State of the Union, Biden's like, yeah, let's get back to normal. Just have all our kids in schools. Let's not close anything. So they're like, wow, that was pretty interesting. I wasn't super surprised about it because a lot of like liberal states have been lifting these things. But just watching. Did you guys watch the State of the Union?
So I only watched. I basically watched a bunch of people's analyses of it. I only saw bits and pieces of it. I didn't watch the whole thing.
Yeah, I did the same. I didn't watch any of it. I just listened to people's opinions on it.
Yeah, I was surprised. It was very, I guess, moderate, because there were he had, his views that were very left, and then some views that were leaning on the right. And I was kind of surprised that, because, in the State of the Union, there's always like people rising for applause based off of what they hear. And I was surprised to see that like Republicans were like applauding some of the stuff that Biden was saying.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah, because there's like a picture of or video of Ted Cruz standing up and applauding Biden. I think it was when Biden was talking about immigration.
Oh, okay.
But
yeah, I'd heard that. Yeah, I'd heard that there was support on both sides, like you were saying.
Yeah, so the convoy here, it's kind of weird that it seems like they're way late to the game, because man, the mandates are like going away. So I'm not sure why they're here in DC. Like, are they still protesting the mandates? Which mandates are you guys protesting? Like, are you protesting like all the mandates that are going away already? And then why are you in the Capitol? Because there are no federal vaccine mandates.
That seems confused.
Yeah, so I don't get it. I don't know why they're here in DC specifically. Maybe it's because of DC might have some mandates. I don't know. Like the city of DC might have some mandates. Who knows, man? Who knows?
Yeah, I don't know.
But it kind of like maybe if they did this a year ago, yeah, it makes sense. But it just doesn't make sense now, because we don't have, at this moment that I could think of, I don't think there's any vaccine passports around. So I'm not sure. Everything's pretty much open. What is it? The mask mandates that you still have to wear a mask on a plane? Even some of these planes are lifting those mandates. Some of these companies. So I don't know. Weird.
I don't know either. Yeah, I really don't know much about that.
No, I don't know. I feel COVID is probably dying down because most of this mandate stuff is being lifted. My daughter's school doesn't have mask mandates anymore.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, I think that people, like, some people are saying, like, some of my more lefty family members are not liking this because they're worrying about whether it'll make the numbers go up, and especially if there's especially if there's another variant that is actually more severe rather than the new what is it, the Unicron variant that is much more powerful than Megatron. No, much less powerful than Megatron, but much more popular, much more contagious. But I think that it's hard to say how it's going to progress in the future. Hopefully, this literally is starting to be the end of the pandemic, and it's going to be more of an endemic, or whatever the term is, where most people will get it, but it will be mostly like a cold. Hopefully, that'll be the case. It's just, I really don't know how it's going to progress in the future.
Yeah, I really think at this point, the only measures should only be in place to keep hospitals from being overloaded. It's kind of, that's what we're at, the point we're at now. It's just, as long as we don't have to do a death panel and choose whether people live or die because we don't have the capacity to treat them.
Yeah.
I think that would be the only time where it would be legitimate to try and use these mitigation strategies. But it doesn't look like we're at hospital capacities anymore. So I don't know. It's worth trying the experiment to see what happens, I guess.
Yeah, Omicron wasn't that bad of a, not like saying it. There's a good variant out there, but at least it was a mild one, and a lot of it was super contagious. So a lot of people have got it. So you could say that we got to a point of herd immunity, and hopefully going forward,
hopefully
we'll protect a lot of people if another variant comes along.
Well, I'm just glad I pulled a Neo and I dodged all those different variant bullets so far.
Me too.
I'm just lucky. I guess Delta Cron isn't a thing anymore.
Right.
And I guess the original was what? Alphanumeric was the original?
I guess so.
And that was was alphanumerics more deadly than Delta Cron?
That's a good question. I'm not sure.
Yeah. I don't know if I've actually ever looked and seen which was like the deadliest variant or not.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know that.
But
either.
I remember a lot of people died with the first variant. Like,
yeah.
I think the first variant probably killed most people. Yeah.
Yeah. That's one of the countries. Italy is one of them for sure. There were
a bunch because we got pretty, like, we had a lot of hospitalizations with Delta. But I don't think it was nearly as bad as like the first salvo, where like New York was having problems. Like they had to order like trucks to hold the bodies and all of that.
Yeah,
I don't think we got to that level. I know there was a surge of, I don't know if it was cases or deaths, but I know there was a surge definitely when Delta made the scene.
Yeah.
I don't know, but it's worth looking into.
I just hope that with the lifting of a bunch of restrictions, and I'm not saying they should stay in place, but I just hope that it won't, like you said, that it won't overwhelm the hospitals, because even though Delta is less severe because it's more contagious, it can potentially lead to more people going to the hospital, even if most of them are ones who already have comorbidities. It's like, I don't know the numbers in terms of like, it's small it depends on how you measure it, because whether you look at it in percentages, it might be a super small percentage in terms of numbers, but I don't know how much hospitals are prepared for in terms of treating the number of patients at capacity.
Yeah. I don't think if we do come up with some more variants, I think they're probably just going to get more. They're probably going to become more contagious, because that's what seems to happen. So they're going to be more contagious, but also less deadly, because in order to be more contagious, you have to be less deadly.
I hope so. Yeah, I hope that's how it's going to turn out.
Let's see. I'm trying to look up some info about, which variants are the worst.
Oh, okay. So I was just going to comment on something else from the State of the Union address while you look that up. One of the fucking stupid culture war things that I saw was and I don't know what the exact circumstances of this were, because I just saw people comment on it, but apparently that super kind of wacko Trump supporter Lauren Boebert, congresswoman, was standing up and like ridiculing Biden when he mentioned how one of his sons died in one of the wars in the Middle East.
Yeah, so she was trying to comment on basically what people consider a botched pullout, in which 13 Americans died, which is really not that many in the grand scheme of things. Because he was talking about a persistent issue that veterans from Iraq have and Bosnia is that they've had these things called burn pits. I'm not sure exactly what a burn pit, like what the function of it was, but what I do know is
I had heard that it was basically like it sounds like just a giant pile of garbage that they would burn, and a lot of veterans have had persistent health conditions after that, apparently from the toxic fumes that they inhaled from being around these burn pits all the time.
I see. Yeah, so he was commenting on that, and they kind of like heckled him about the 13 that died, and then he rounded that off with talking about his son that died of cancer. So it made them look pretty goddamn bad.
Yeah.
After the fact, and they were trying to like, oh, we had to bring up. They were tweeting, we had to bring up the 13 that died, and then he's talking about like, thousands of soldiers who have been exposed to this chronic illness, and that he was talking about how it causes cancer, and they need to make sure that they fund and take care of these veterans as best as they can instead of denying funding. And he was talking about how he was like, he's trying to fund this so that they can get care, and he was being denied by, I guess, Republicans by saying it's too expensive, which is weird because Republicans are all about the troops. And
they never complain about the cost in terms of funding wars.
Yeah, so that's kind of like what he was talking about then. It just makes me like think about how fucking extreme the Republicans are now.
Yeah.
Because Marjorie Taylor Greene, she was basically at a white supremacist like CPAC type of
Yeah, I had
event.
heard that, yeah.
So like, oh, I didn't know that Fuentes was a white supremacist. Yeah, he was like one of the dudes who organized Unite the Right in Charlottesville. How can you not know this shit?
Yeah.
It's like, man, it's like the Republicans are getting really fucking wacky. Like, I'm trying to think of like a Democratic equivalent, and like even the fucking Squad isn't that crazy.
I mean, it depends on what they're less. I would say they're less dangerous in that way, but it depends on what you're talking about. Well, for example, apparently AOC has gone like the jump the shark to the left in terms of climate change, which is the opposite of denying it and saying that the whole world is going to end in 12 years, apparently.
Is that what she said?
Yeah.
Oh, that's dumb.
I mean, obviously climate change is very important and severe, but as far as I understand it, it's definitely something that needs to be addressed, but the consequences are going to be something more like basically most coastal cities flooding within the next 50 to 100 years. And then of course the air quality is going to get worse, and the ozone layer is going to be depleted more, and there are and apparently there's an increase in the rate of natural disasters, and the weather itself is more extreme in both directions in terms of like extreme heat and extreme coldness too. And you and I were I think the three of us, I guess last time, we were talking about how much we've noticed the weather has changed long term, but I mean that's a far cry from the world ending in 12 years.
Right. What did she say? She really said something that stupid?
Yeah, she says some pretty stupid shit, I would say. But I mean, she's also nowhere near as crazy as the way that Republicans or conservative political commentators like Ben Shapiro paint her to be.
Yeah. I guess I'm just trying to say, like, who are they associating themselves with?
Yeah. Well,
I
and I
know.
mean, AOC is the one the member of the squad who gets reported on the most by far, right? Because she's the most extreme and maybe the most like courting fame too. Like there's that whole stupid scandal with her dress at that gala event or whatever. And then the rest of them seem to mostly be kind of keeping quiet about most stuff, but they're just kind of focusing on policy. Like, even
Well,
though I
yeah,
wouldn't
that's what you're supposed to
necessarily,
do.
yeah, basically.
That's why AOC is rated one of the least effective like lawmakers in Congress.
Yeah,
None of the
You're talking about my girl.
yeah,
yeah. Well, yeah, she was looking really nice at
she is hot.
the
She did look good in that dress. You
at
can't
the
deny that. Yeah.
yeah, and she was looking good at the State of the Union. I was like, oh, she's
Mm-hmm.
a little bit more made up than usual.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, she doesn't get anything done. Like her bills that she proposes are like too extreme, and nobody writes off on them.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, like the rest of the squad is willing to like talk to Republicans and try to get like bipartisan shit done, but nobody signs on to her shit because it's way too divisive. So if
Yeah.
that's the case, she's not really getting anything done. She's just kind of like a
Yeah.
loudmouth.
Well, and then like not getting done in both directions too, because then she, like a lot of lefties, like extreme lefties, criticize her for actually trying to court more kind of bipartisanship and be more favorable to conservatives, but then or not even conservatives necessarily, like more right leaning or like centrist leaning Democrats like Nancy Pelosi to them, or for example, she'll kind of cave to them, and then they'll just throw her under the bus anyway. So it's like she doesn't get much done, whether she's trying to promote like an extreme lefty bill or trying to compromise and do like even a more right leaning thing than a lot of her supporters would like.
Mm. So I was like looking back.
Look at this comment from Mackle. I bet AOC would have pointed out the Antichrist if being Christian was considered woke.
I wonder because thinking about the I'm thinking that there are probably a lot of wokesters that were angry with the State of the Union.
I saw some lefty analysis that seemed like it was that they thought it was mostly mixed. I guess they liked some of it, but didn't think some of it went far enough, and didn't like some of it. I think I just saw like David
What they say
Pakman, who
about
is
his
a
funds.
progressive, and
Well, he's a progressive, but he's not woke.
yeah. Well, I saw the more woke type of analysis that actually seemed similar to his too. Like Sam Cedar I watched because I want to get my dose of the super uber extreme leftiness, calling everyone they don't like a white supremacist. And his analysis seemed to be that it was more mixed, which was similar to what David Pakman's was.
Okay. Yeah, because I was wondering what wokesters were saying about him saying fund the police.
Oh yeah, I'm sure none of them like that. I'm sure none of them like that. Yeah.
Probably got really pissed off about his
Yeah.
immigration stance. He did say though that he wanted to get the Dreamers, a pathway for citizenship for them, but he also said, yeah, he wants stronger border security too.
Oh, okay.
And I wonder if they were mad about that. I don't know. Democrats, despite what I guess Republicans say, I've never heard a Democrat advocate for open borders.
That's true. Yeah, I haven't either.
It's almost like they go to the most extreme positions. Like I'm trying to think of how they strawman each other all the time. Like
yeah, they definitely do that a lot.
Like the extreme character. Like there's this funny thing that's going. Have you heard about Dan Crenshaw? They're calling him a rhino now, and then I heard some people are all calling him a communist. a communist
Really?
rhino. Yes.
Holy shit!
Wait,
Dan
isn't that the
Crenshaw.
guy that has the one eye?
Mhm.
Yes, it's the eye patch guy.
The eye patch. Yeah.
He was in there.
Why are they calling him a communist? I don't
And
get
he was
it.
in the army for like he lost that eye.
Yeah.
Because it's really complicated, but
Well,
in
yeah, it would have
American
to be.
politics, when you run into gerrymandered districts, so say a district becomes safe for a particular party, then that party has to fight with itself for votes. And what happens when you're in a safe district and you are a more moderate Republican, then the people you're going to that are going to primary you are going to be more extreme. So those more extreme elements that are trying to run, I think he won his election, but he was being primaried by like some really like far right figures, that were saying, because Dan Crenshaw doesn't believe the election was stolen.
Right.
Stuff like that, like really moderate stuff. So the people that are
Right.
running
Yeah.
against them,
So like the super pro-Trump wing of the Republican Party think that the Republicans who think that the election for Biden was legitimate are like they're fucking commies or something like that.
yeah,
Okay.
like they call him Republican in name only. That's what a rhino is.
Okay.
Because he doesn't believe that the election was stolen, which is fucking weird. Like, he's not a Republican because he doesn't think the election was stolen. But all of his fucking, like, he has an A rating from the NRA, and they're saying, oh yeah, and it's funny. There were like a lot of interviews where people were asking, well, what policies does he support that you don't like, and like a lot of them have a hard time like coming up with those policies. It's mainly just like right-wing rhetoric that inflames these people into thinking that this guy's like a communist or something, and that he's weak on the Second Amendment when he has like an A rating from the NRA.
Wow.
But if you want to check out a podcast where he was interviewed about this very thing, I'll send it to you guys. It's pretty gnarly what happens when you start gerrymandering and you make districts safe for parties. It just because when you make a district, when a district is a swing district, you got to appeal to both sides, right? So you got to try to get some of those Democratic voters to vote for you if you're on the right, and if you're on the left, you got to get some of those Republican voters to vote for you. So if your district is safe, the people who are going to run in the primary knows it's going to be safe, so they don't have to even talk about any of the Democrats or even try to get them to vote for them. So they go hard in the paint on like hardcore right-wing stuff. That's how you get a Marjorie Taylor Greene and people like that are just completely nuts.
And Lauren Boebert.
Yeah, they're just. And I think Lauren Boebert just like has a pretty lengthy criminal record, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, really? It's
what I
kind
heard.
of funny. It's kind of funny that like fucking wacko politicians tend to be hot, like or like political commentators too, like Candace Owens and AOC and Lauren Boebert and Lauren Southern, who is like borderline. Well, I don't know if she's actually a white supremacist, but she's pretty extreme right wing. Like they're all super hot.
Yeah, she's definitely one of those, like, I would consider Lauren Southern in the Great Replacement camp, which is, I would call that firmly white supremacist. There's no way around it, really.
Yeah.
Anyone who's all about that Great Replacement stuff is like, well, why are you concerned? Why are you concerned that brown-skinned people want to be in the country?
What is the Great Replacement?
A Great Replacement. This was going on during like the refugee crisis in Europe, And like one of the things was like, oh, France is not going to be French anymore because of all of these refugees showing up, and we don't,
Gonna be
stuff like
Muslim.
that. It's like, oh, they're going to breed faster than the locals, and then we're going to have a totally different country.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I personally wouldn't even care if eventually there are no more white people because we all interbreed with each other. That might be bound to happen at some point anyway.
Well, I think the arguments are pretty idiotic and dumb. Whoever has the power has the power. It doesn't matter how big or what color your populace is. Like, just take South Africa before apartheid. Like, it was a small minority of white people in control, and there are a ton of black people. Did that change who was in power? No, not really.
Mm-hmm.
People who are in power are going to always want to abide by their own interests. And, a lot of the squad, they're not making a shitload of money because they're not that powerful. They're in the House of Representatives. None of them are senators, and they only have 2-year terms, so they can get swapped out at any time. But anyone's a senator. Like, even Bernie Sanders is not. He's not poor.
No. Oh
But
yeah,
you tend to
right
become
wingers
more
criticize him
wealthy.
for they criticize him for that because he's a millionaire because he sold copies of a book, and he has two houses just like most politicians do because they live in one state and then they have to travel to DC all the time.
Yeah, but he's
too old anyway.
Bernie Sanders.
Yeah.
He's too old. We don't need old people anymore to be in charge.
Yeah, he's been in Congress forever, and he's been getting paid $200,000 a year. Like, of course, you're going to have a lot of money for being in Congress for a long ass time. They get paid $200,000 a year. I'm pretty sure over 20 years you could save up enough to buy 2 houses.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's good. And his own party didn't want him, so time to retire, bud.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny that like even more woke people like AOC are like they're pro Bernie guys too. Of course, like some of the uber crackpot far left lefties criticize her for that too because she's not woke enough because she promotes an old white guy.
Yeah, but they're dumb because when you're a representative, you got to represent the people of your district. And to be honest, like, even the squad ain't really that woke compared to like the wokest of the woke.
Like who?
Just like people who say ridiculous shit. We're talking about like
there's no biological difference between men and women.
Yeah, like dumb shit like that.
Black people are always oppressed by white people.
Yeah, even they don't say shit like that.
That's true.
So nobody that woke, unless like the entire or a large majority of the people that they represent are that woke, would that ever happen? And wokesters are like super small minority of people. They just happen to be pretty loud.
Yeah, that's true.
So I don't think, but that's kind of weird because we do have crazy fucking people like MTG get elected. But then again, she's like a super evangelical, and I think that's kind of her base anyway.
Oh, okay.
And they kind of sometimes believe crazy stuff. Like, I don't understand.
It's funny that the evangelicals support the Trump and the Trump wing of the Republicans so much. But I think I forget where I had heard this from, but I think I had heard that apparently the evangelicals basically they only supported Trump on a one issue basis, which is that he was super against abortion.
Yeah, but he wasn't probably not even ideologically against it. He's probably just saying it.
No, but his party
scores them
would have been
points.
against it. The party would have been against it, so yeah, that's why they would have voted for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, man, because I've heard some reporters like sneak into some of those crazy ass sermons in Florida, and man, do some of them say some bigoted shit. I'm talking like the actual preachers. Like I don't get it, because when I attended church, I don't remember our pastor ever talking about hardcore political shit like at all. It was mostly
that's
like
weird. I don't think that happens in many churches unless they're extreme ones like that. That doesn't seem like a very common thing to me.
Yeah, because I listened to a podcast about, who was it about? It was about the guy that Trump picked for the Department of Energy, and they went to his church, and they were like preaching a bunch of like bigoted shit in this church.
Wow.
I was like, man, what kind of fucking church is this? This is fucking crazy.
Yeah, most churches, like even if they're more extreme churches, like not quite as extreme as evangelicals, they'll get extreme, but it's still more like religious extreme. Like it can get political being against abortion and stuff like that, but they'll mostly, talk about God and the Bible and Bible stories and have a really conservative like small c conservative interpretation of them.
But I've seen some crazy like preachers, because there was this site I used to visit just about every day called Sorry Anti-Vaxxer, and they basically track stories where people who were anti-vax died, and there were so many of these crazy ass preachers who died from COVID.
Yeah, I've heard about some of that. That's really sad that happens.
Yeah, the Decepticons conquered some of these creatures. And I was like, okay, let me check these people out and see what they're saying. And man, it was just like conspiracy laden.
Chris, mute yourself. I'm hearing a lot of crinkling there. Sorry.
Like, I swear, I kind of felt like, because these preachers would have YouTube channels, and then they would have like their sermons recorded. And I swear, like, listening to some of these was like watching Alex Jones. Like, that's how fucking ridiculous some of these preachers are. I was like,
that's
man,
entertaining.
Yeah, I was like, man, this is really off the rails. This is like not even Bible-based stuff at this point. They're just like crackpot. Like even like literal. Like if you think of Alex Jones, he can literally be one of these preachers because he often invokes God in like his rants. Like
yeah, that's true.
So I'm surprised that he isn't. I'm surprised that he isn't a preacher. Like he could definitely transition into being one if he had any financial woes. He just doesn't have the ability to use YouTube anymore.
I was watching this documentary series on cults, and there's this one cult that basically, like a lot of them, the leader thought that he was the second coming of Jesus, and his son was continuing it, and he became it was him that started this after his father died. He became a super right-wing gun nut, and he made himself a crown of bullets. And he made a biblical justification for the right to bear arms, something about how fire means firearms.
So he made a bullet diadem.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was looking at it at first, and I thought, is his crown made of bullets? And then he talked about it.
What a crazy asshole.
Yeah.
Oh man, I was like doing something similar. I was listening to. No, I was watching a documentary, like a mini documentary about Heaven's Gate, that cult, and man, was it freaking wacky! Like, ugh, it
Think
was.
about that, like how you can convince a whole bunch of people to commit mass suicide. That takes a lot of fucking like basic extreme indoctrination, right?
Well, it had to be powerful because one of the requirements from being in this cult was celibacy.
Oh yeah.
Celibacy, no drugs, no nothing. Like it was nuts. So once he enacted the celibacy rule, like half of that cult just like disappeared.
That
So
seems to
only
be
the
like
most hardcore of the hardcore stayed behind.
I don't remember this detail about that one, but it seems like a lot of the times with cults, there's a male leader, and then he makes the rule, okay, but I get all the women. They're all my wives, even the
Yeah, this
children.
was like an exception. Like everybody was celibate.
Oh, okay.
And it had to do like some aliens were coming to save them from like a comet. And then the aliens, in order to get on board the comet, you had to release your soul from the body.
Right.
And they all had to wear like, and they had to look androgynous as well. So you couldn't have any outward like sexual signifiers. So they got to shave. They had to wear really baggy clothing. That's why when you saw them, they were all wearing like the same clothes and shoes.
Oh wow. Okay.
Such a weird cult, that Heaven's Gate.
Yeah, I haven't heard much about it in a while. I should do more research into it or read a book
Yeah, because
about it or
that
watch a
cult is from
documentary about it.
the cult is from my hometown. I completely forgot that they were from my hometown.
Oh wow.
So,
Okay.
so it's like, oh shoot, I should kind of look into these guys a little more.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, so was there anything else interesting that that you noticed from the State of the Union address, Biden's State of the Union address, or people's reactions to it?
Well, interesting enough, he brought up infrastructure a lot, and he was really hammering the idea of having to sparking up American manufacturing. And he's saying right now the economy is weak because we're relying on foreign supply chains, and that we should bypass these supply chains by producing the things that we need to produce on our own.
Right.
So he was kind of like, it was a very populist message. So I was like, that's pretty interesting coming from Biden. And I think he garnered a lot of applause from that. But I was like, this is really weird, because usually these speeches are usually pretty divisive, and they have been historically, at least from the Trump era. I don't remember any Democrats like applauding him at all. We had Pelosi ripping his speech up at the end of one of these things. I think she did genuinely clap at one of his points, but yeah, I was like, yeah, it looks like Joe is being bipartisan Joe right now. But we'll see what that is. But I guess there was like a counter speech by a governor from Iowa, but she was like not charismatic at all, so I really didn't watch much of it.
Okay.
Boring. Like, hey, if you're gonna have a spokesperson, at least make them charismatic.
Yeah.
For sure. I need to have some passion, but she was kind of like weirdly monotone. I was like, I'll kind of
gotta have that.
Skip out on that.
Gotta have that energy like AOC or Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Yeah, so it was kind of boring, and I was like, they're basically going point by point, and I think a lot of the focus was, he botched the Afghanistan pullout. Oh, look at all of this inflation. You know, like
Yeah,
the
of
normal stuff that we've basically heard.
Yeah, of course.
I don't know. Maybe she mentioned CRT, but I didn't stick around to listen to it.
Wouldn't have surprised me if she did at some point. That's the latest demon that people are throwing around that they don't understand, so they can sound smart.
I don't know. It was just not interesting enough for me to care. But anyway, yeah, I was like surprised. I thought it was going to be. I thought he was going to virtue signal to the left, at least to the bad elements of the left that we all don't like, and he kind of
we're going to make our military more transgender.
Yeah, even when he talked about the Supreme Court pick, he didn't even mention like the race elements at all.
Oh wow!
I was like, I think he's just kind of trying to avoid sounding overly woke or anything like that. Like Joe Biden, he's not fucking woke at all. Like any wokeness he exudes is probably like forced or pandering.
Yeah.
But
I really support the BIPOC ABCs movement.
Yeah, it's like Tupac. They should just have a rapper named BIPOC.
Yeah.
BIPOC Shakur. It'd be like a bisexual version of Tupac.
That'd be funny.
But I thought it was pretty. I was like, this is surprisingly good. I know he's not going to execute on all this shit anyway, but hey, it's nice to like pay lip service, I guess, to it at least.
Okay.
But one of the most, the thing I think I enjoyed the most about it is how like he's like, yeah, we're done with this pandemic stuff. Like, we're moving past it. And it's like, yes, this will basically give people the assurance they need to not be stuck in, I need to wear a mask even when I'm by myself in the bathroom mode. But yeah, it's pretty cool, man. I thought it was okay. Like, I think I actually fund the police. I think his sentiment was good. And his was, we need to fund the police because they need better training.
Yeah, not that they need to be militarized.
Right. So his argument was, yeah, we're throwing these people out there and they're not trained as well as we could train them. And if we funded them more, perhaps we can train them better, attract, a better pool of people. Because if the job pays more, you might have more competition for those jobs, and those people, like when you have more competition, you're better off. You're probably going to get better people.
Yeah, you're going to weed out. Who wants to be a cop though these days?
People still want to be cops. It depends on where.
Well, even here in Canada, I mean, not as many people want to be cops as they did like 2 years ago. Like, especially after, I don't know. They're definitely not seen in the light they were post 2-3 years ago,
like post George Floyd protests and all that, and defund the police.
And even here in Canada, I mean, like they were, the whole trucker footage of the police and how they interacted with protesters, then I know a lot of conservatives here in Canada that were usually pro-police were kind of like, wait a minute here. Is this police for the people or is this for the state? You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, I saw some videos of like some concerned citizens like debating with police. And police, they're not fucking law professors. So you can't expect them to answer shit on that level. They're just doing what they're told to do.
Yeah, and a lot of Ontario police said no to even taking those shifts to be at the protest on the other side. The problem is like with police and army, there's going to be people. You're going to find people somewhere that'll. Same with this Russian-Ukraine thing. You know, you're going to, if you're in Russia and you're not really for the war, you're going to find soldiers that, you know, are going to sign up. There's somebody going to be out there.
Oh yeah, we're going to give you some overtime pay, some hazard pay.
Yep.
And yeah, we'll pay you extra.
Yeah.
And there's probably people that are just, hey, I want that big paycheck. Go throw me in there.
Sure. Or will like take care of your family, or Anyway.
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, yeah, the fund the police. I was like, I agree if they do it properly. If they're just gonna buy them a bunch of fucking tanks and military hardware, no way, Jose.
Yeah,
but if
for sure.
If you genuinely want to train them, and I've heard people talk about how poorly they're trained. I know I've heard Jocko Willink talk about how poorly police are trained in this country.
Yeah, me too.
And he should know how poorly trained they are compared to his level of training. Because he says like they train in his former line of work, they trained more than they were in combat.
Yeah.
And he said in order for the policing to work, half of the police officers, half of their time has to be spent training. It can't be just like this fucking course every 6 weeks that they got to take or whatever it is. They have to be training half the time.
Yeah, like if especially if they're trained in the best tactics to use to de-escalate situations and avoid violence, that would be fucking perfect.
Right.
Some of that is like the person, though. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. That's true. Yeah.
You can train all you want, but if you train a guy for like 5 years and he's still trigger happy at the end of the day, you know, he's gonna be. Yeah.
And then, you know, there's other examples of how policing is done in other countries. I think I'm not sure which country in Europe, but there are countries in Europe where, you know, you have to have like a college level education to become a police officer. It can't just be like some call it, it's like some high school GED person. You know, you got to go to college. And then they train way more than what our police do. I think our police are kind of like Russian conscripts. They just kind of throw as many bodies as they can, and hopes that that's what works. That's kind of what it seems like.
I don't know if we do it that differently here in Canada. I mean, I don't know in terms of the training, but I'm pretty sure you don't need a college degree. You can just go and be a cop whenever you want.
Yeah, it's not that difficult here. There's a military police college kind of close by where I am. I want to say go there for maybe 3 or 4 years, and yeah. Although, like,
well, let's see, 3 or 4 years over here. I think it's 6 months. It's 6 months here in the U.S.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And I might be exaggerating by 3 or 4 years. Maybe it's 1 or 2 years. I know it's a few years because I had a buddy that went there one time. But again, like Canada cops versus U.S. cops are two different ball games. You know what I mean? Just because of Second Amendment there, and we don't really have citizens that carry guns as much per capita. Then, yeah. It's a highly stressful
but most
job.
of the guns that they deal with are illegal.
Yeah, it's a highly stressful job. I mean, like, yeah, you want somebody that's fully trained. It's just, yeah, I would, I think more, I don't know. I haven't looked at the numbers, but I think that police aren't going to be like the first thing on people's list to go and sign up for, you know. People are still going to want to be cops for sure, but it's not going to be like, I don't know.
I was going to ask you
I know
guys,
what you mean.
Did you hear about this incident in Florida where this guy running for public office got pulled over by cops, and the whole encounter was like recorded? and he like blatantly lied to the police officer.
Oh,
And he
wow.
was like,
No.
yeah, he was like threatening her with like her job. It's like, oh, you don't know who I am, and you'll be lucky to work another year as a police officer. Blah 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 blah.
Wow.
And I guess they released these body cams to the media, and he dropped out of whatever race he was running in.
Wow.
And it's weird because the dude has like a British accent, so he's like from Britain, and he was running. I guess he has citizenship now in the U.S., but he's like running in Florida.
Oh, okay.
And they got the whole incident on camera. I was like, man, this guy's so dumb. Doesn't he know these people wear body cams?
Oh, man. Oh, that's funny.
And he was like supposed to be pro police. He's like, yeah, I have blah blah blah, and my brother-in-law's in law enforcement, blah 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 blah. I was like, yeah, but you're just acting like a straight up dick to them and lying to them. It's like you probably have enough money to have to pay the stupid ticket that they're going to give you, and it's your own fault that you're like texting and driving, and they're just
that's
doing
why
their
he got
job.
pulled over?
Yeah, he was texting and driving.
Okay.
Yeah. So
And he's running for senator?
he's running for some office in Florida. I don't remember. His name is Mike something.
What did he lie about?
Because he was, the officer asked him for license and registration, and he like refused to give the officer registration.
Okay.
And he's like, oh, let me speak to your supervisor. And then he told the supervisor that that she was going to write him a ticket even after displaying his registration, which he did not do.
Okay.
So he like straight up lied. He said that she was trying to write him a fraudulent ticket, but it was like caught on camera that he didn't want to give her his registration.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Let me see if I can find his name so you can watch the video. I'm just putting Florida pulled over by cop.
Florida man.
Yeah, that might be too many stories.
Florida man, yeah.
Yeah, his name is GOP candidate Martin Hyde.
Oh, that's funny. That's really
U.S.
close
House.
to the
He
name.
is running for a House of Representatives, so
that's really close to the name Martin Heidegger, who's a super famous German philosopher.
Yeah, so he threatens to end an officer's career during a Florida traffic stop.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Well, obviously he's not somebody you would want to vote for if he's not cognizant
Yeah.
enough to know that everybody has a camera on them, and then you're running for political office. And
yeah, of course.
Yeah, so he dropped out of the race after he got called out on that, and it went live. Like that probably would have sunk him anyway, because if you're running on the ticket that you're pro cop, and then you're shown on camera treating a cop like shit, that's like super hypocritical.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
And he said, "Oh, I was just having a bad day, and I shouldn't have blown up like that." Like, yeah, you're gonna throw your weight around and say that you're gonna call someone's boss and use your position to threaten an officer because they're giving you a legitimate ticket. When you probably have enough money to pay for whatever ticket, if you're running for office, I'm pretty sure the guy's not hurting for money.
Yeah, for
right.
Sure.
Right. Okay.
But yeah, Martin Hyde, that's his name.
Okay. So, Chris, did you hear anything else about from the analyses or commentating that you watched about Biden's State of the Union address?
No, I didn't. Yeah, I didn't watch it. I watched a few analysis, but I didn't go too deep into it. It's just, I don't know, State of the Union address, even if it was truthful, I just don't see it as, I don't know, it's just like, what in there is actually going to be 100% actually going to happen from now? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, some of it is probably just rhetoric for sure, I would say, yeah.
I just think it's just like a show, right? And I mean, for me, I'm just like, I'm glad he made it through alive through the speech to the end.
Yeah. Well, I found a headline from NPR. It says social racial justice advocates notice Biden did not mention race in the State of the Union address.
Yeah, it's all political like theater, right? Midterms are going to be coming up in what, November? So I think all of this is kind of like he's setting the bar for what Democrats are, what they're going to face come election time, which I don't know. You tell me. I don't know. Yeah. Does it look good for Democrats come midterm time?
I've heard that midterms never look good for the incumbents.
I've heard that it doesn't look good for them, but I don't really know much about it. That's just what I've heard people say.
Yeah. No, like a lot of that is tied to the approval rating of the president, and he has somewhat low rating. So
yeah, super low rating, right?
Well, it's like on par with Trump's rating around the same time. So midterms, I guess, usually end up flipping. So we're probably going to get, a Republican majority. I don't know if we're going to get a Republican majority in the House, but my guess is definitely going to happen in the Senate.
Okay. Is the Senate still Republican controlled from when Trump was in office, rather?
No, it's tied.
No? It's tied? Okay.
Yeah,
Kamala Harris is the tiebreaker.
She's a tiebreaker. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, my guess is that the Republicans are probably going to get a majority soon. But whatever they need to do it soon, I guess, before that happens. Else, basically, there's just not going to be anything happening in Congress. Basically, it just becomes like a I don't know. Whenever you have like an opposite control, it just becomes stagnant and nothing gets passed, nothing happens. But we're kind of like in an era where very few bipartisan things pass. Like I know anything that has to do with the military seems to get bipartisan support, but outside of that, no.
Yeah.
Anything military related, anything related that is about competition with China. But if it's domestic, forget about it. Maybe infrastructure might be something bipartisan related, but anything after that is just like, we'll fight tooth and nail over every little difference in our parties.
Yeah, it's kind of sad actually, and kind of boring. I mean, you mentioned Trump and Biden both having low approval ratings because I think they both fucked up on COVID massively, and it's just going to flip flop back and forth between blue and red, or and nothing gets done. You know what I mean? It's just like, I don't know.
Well, I think Biden's if there's no new variants, Biden's gonna have the benefit of being the president while all the COVID stuff died down.
Yeah, that's true.
When he's gonna say, "Look, no more COVID," and it's gonna use that as a talking point. But the only hope he has now,
it's all due to me. I've defeated COVID. It's like how
anybody
Trump said, I made the vaccine.
Anybody paying attention knows that, like, for example, there's still COVID going on right now. Cases and deaths are, it's not like they're dropped off and at zero. they're lower than what they were, but it's not like everything's gone away. But all the
Yeah.
mandates and all the rules seem to be slipping away in North America, more so in the States than up here.
Mhm.
But so yeah, anybody paying attention is going to know that Biden or Trudeau weren't the people that came in and just solved COVID, right? I think we kind of learned as a society that this is going to be with us. There's going to be variants for a while, so we just gotta. The vaccines obviously weren't the answer. Masks obviously weren't the answer. So let's just continue on with life. You know, we got to push forward.
Mhm.
Yeah, because right now I think there's like 14 or 15 states that have declared the Decepticons as being an endemic instead of a pandemic.
Oh, okay. Wow.
But there's good
Okay.
treatments coming out too, as well, right?
Yeah, they talk. One of the things that was pretty interesting about the State of the Union is that Biden was pushing antiviral pills instead of vaccines. So I was like,
okay.
he's trying to get that anti-vax vote. I see.
He had a talk with Big Pharma salespeople 2 days before that.
Well, he's definitely trying to hit that demographic. You know, he's looking to get people to vote. So
yeah,
probably a little bit of both. You know, hey, we got this new treatment, no vaccine required. You just gotta munch on some pills and you're all good. Like, hey, let me introduce this cure to the world during my big speech. So it's probably definitely some political calculus that happened there.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me at all.
Yeah. The people I pay attention on the left said he did not too bad. People I pay attention on the right said it was horrible. So
of course.
It's the usual stick. So
what did Ben Shapiro say? I know, but I think there was the one thing that Zelensky was commenting on that Ben Shapiro said that basically said, yeah, Shapiro is basically being a contrarian because he made the opposite point like 2 months ago.
About what?
I forgot what it was. They were talking about, what was it? I think it had something to do with like the pandemic and how things are being relaxed. And he was just being a partisan hack about something that he should be happy about.
Okay.
I think there was the same criticism happened with Peterson, where he was. I saw on Twitter he had an angry rant, and he was retweeting the release of the Emergency Powers Act, and he didn't. Instead of being happy, he was like ranting about it. Like, okay, I thought.
Isn't it a good thing, especially according to your perspective?
Yeah, right. So I was like, why is he so mad? And then like all of his followers were like, what's wrong with this guy? This is kind of what we wanted to happen. We wanted these powers to be repealed, yet you're just kind of ranting like a crazy person.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with that guy.
Well, it reminds me of the recent tweet that you brought up where he just kept saying, tell them to go fuck themselves about some woke research proposal, apparently.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he's turning into a Kanye West. Who knows, man? Yeah, Kanye West is definitely. That guy has some problems, man. Didn't he release like a video of him like a claymation? He cuts off like a claymation version of that SNL guy's head or something like that.
Really? I hadn't heard of that.
Yeah, it's like the new thing that people are talking about. He was like cutting off a claymation version of Pete Davidson's head. It was like an animation.
I had heard that he made some song about freedom and in support of the Freedom Convoy, I think.
Really?
It was really, yeah. I just saw like it like really lefty people make fun of it. So I mean, obviously take that with a pound of salt or so, but it seemed really cheesy to me.
Man, I feel like I haven't heard any of this stuff, and I'm not like a super like anti-Kanye person. I'm on episode 2 of the documentary on Netflix right now. So,
oh, how is that, by the way?
well, it's, I don't know, like that era of Kanye for me, College Dropout is kind of like, that's like prime Kanye right before he became super ultra fit. We're not at awkward Kanye yet, where he says,
Presidential Kanye?
Yeah, right. Or even where George Bush wants to, kill all black people, or the Taylor Swift storming of the stage incident. So,
right.
It's actually not too bad. I can't believe the crazy thing to me is the footage that he got. Like, one of his good buddies, Cootie, just basically recorded him the whole entire time, like back in early 2000s. So he's got like all this footage following him around as he's going in the studio, as he's showing like everybody at Rockefeller and all of his tracks and that kind of stuff. All the stuff was recorded like perfectly for a documentary. So,
oh, okay, that's cool.
Yeah, it's worth checking out. It's on Netflix. But yeah, I didn't hear of any of this other claiming. I heard he did a Pete Davidson dig. That's what I heard, but I didn't. Yeah. But Kanye doing something crazy is not shocking to me anymore. Matter of fact, I don't know. I don't really pay attention.
I thought you were talking about Jordan Peterson doing that, Dusty.
No, I think he said that Kanye did that because Pete Davidson's dating Kim Kardashian right now, right? So, and he's been on this kind of tear of like getting back at her. I don't know. I honestly don't pay attention because it's just like, I don't know. I have better things to kind of pay attention to, I guess.
Yeah, I don't really care about that either.
Yeah. Again, I'm not. I gotta love hate with everybody.
Yeah. Kanye is kind of a weird topic to jump into. But yeah, even political commentators have been talking about Kanye lately.
Okay.
Yeah, because he's just like, he's dating some other chick, and at the same time, I think he like sent a truckload of roses to Kim Kardashian. So what the fuck is this guy doing?
Yeah, he was dating. I think they broke up, and she was like, I think she actually even came out and said that she just dated him for like better coverage or whatever, like, or more Instagram followers or something like that. It was that low of a deal.
Well, I guess his new girlfriend is named Cheney Jones or something.
Oh, okay, so this is another new one because he had one for a little bit, and she was like a British actress or something, and yeah.
And anyway. She basically looks like a wannabe Kim Kardashian, basically.
Nice.
Like everyone is calling her a Kim Kardashian clone.
Cool.
So she has a nice booty?
I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know.
Well, if you're as rich as Kanye, you got to be with the girl with the booty.
Yeah. I'm sure he'll...
At this point, it's like, with all that's going on with the guy, what girl in her right mind would want to be with him?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure a lot still would. He's still rich and famous.
I bet you there's tons out there, dude.
But yeah,
imagine it's like... Imagine you get to get together with Taylor Swift, like after all that. Please, if this is like all a simulation,
and then they can both write songs about it.
Yeah, this is all a simulation. Please make this happen, just for my entertainment.
Well, I guess I'm surprised that Kim Kardashian isn't currently dating a black dude.
Yeah.
That's surprising.
Why is she dating? Who's she dating?
Pete Davidson.
Pete Davidson.
Oh, right. Okay. Why is he a white dude?
Yeah, he's white.
Oh, good for him.
He's the guy that made fun of Dan Crenshaw and got in trouble for
Oh, okay.
it.
That's what he's famous for.
Yeah. I don't know. To me, he just looks like a heroin addict. I don't know how to describe him.
But he has a track record of dating like rockets, doesn't he? Like, who did he date?
I have no idea. I have no idea. He just looks like a heroin addict to me. It's like, man, why do your eyes look like that? Looks like you've been popping that needle.
I'm looking at
Yeah, he looks scary, man. Just go search Pete Davidson and just look at all these pictures of him. There are some pictures where he definitely looks like a heroin addict.
Oh yeah, dude. Okay, listen to this. He's dated Ariana Grande, Kate Beckinsale, Kim Kardashian. Like all these girls are like really good looking.
Wow.
And like extremely talented too.
Yeah.
Pete Davidson is not like.
Oh, that guy. I've seen that guy before. He's a comedian?
Yeah, he's a comedian.
Holy shit, yeah, good for him, man. Holy shit. He's standing way out of his league.
Yeah, he has a history.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway. Good for you, Pete.
Yeah. Good job.
Yeah, he has a good batting average, I see.
Yeah,
Definitely. All right.
Yeah. Have you ever seen what Candace Owens' husband looks like?
Who?
Candace Owens' husband.
Oh no, but I heard that he's a white British guy, right?
Yeah.
Is he dating out of his league too?
I don't know. Let's check.
Yeah.
He just looks like a normal white guy.
Who's my competition?
George Farmer. Yeah, he does just look like an average white guy, kind of.
Yeah, he looks kind of like like a posh British guy.
Yeah, what you would expect.
Yeah, it's like every picture he's wearing like a suit. One of those types of guys.
Of course you would marry a posh British white guy. That makes sense. Probably rich. Give her lots of rich babies.
Yeah.
Did you see that? How people were making fun of Candace Owens at CPAC because she was talking about how, it used to be the case that mothers would just stay at home, but now mothers have entered the workplace. Yet she is there working at a CPAC conference talking about that.
Well, what was her gripe?
That will I don't know, like the lefties are trying to change culture so much and we need more conservative values or something like that.
Is she saying that women should still stay at home?
She didn't say that, but I mean, it seemed like awkward messaging in that way.
Well, does she know why both parents tend to work now? Or is she just kind of oblivious to that fact?
I think she probably thinks, people just aren't working hard enough because she believes in the meritocracy. And that there actually is a meritocracy, that is.
Yeah. Women are working because men, one thing I know is that women now, I think on average, at least starting out in the workplace, women make more. So, and then it's harder to raise a family, so you need bigger incomes.
Yep.
And it's easier to do that when you got two parents working and not just one.
Wages haven't kept up with increasing inflation, and it's harder and harder for people to make a living, and rent is going up, and all those sorts of factors.
Oh, I just found an article Well, I was sent an article that Elon Musk. Did you hear about that? He sent like these Starlink satellite internet modules to Ukraine.
Starlink satellite.
Yes,
He
because
sent that into space, did he?
Oh, what was
Chris
happening
said
is
that
like
his browser crashed. Hopefully he'll be back here in a second. I think you cut out there, Dusty.
yeah, I don't see him.
Oh, okay. So Elon Musk launched a satellite, you said?
Okay, so Elon Musk was trying to help Ukraine because the Russians were blocking or disrupting their communications network. So he sent a bunch of Starlink terminals to Ukraine, and these are satellite internet terminals.
Okay.
And apparently, I just found an article that says Elon Musk says Starlink won't block Russian state media to Ukraine. And it says, sorry to be a free speech advocate.
Okay.
But the tweet that he has published, and it doesn't seem that bad, it says Starlink has been told by some governments, not Ukraine, to block Russian news sources. We do not do so unless at gunpoint. Sorry to be a free speech absolutist.
Okay. I'm not sure what to think about that. It
And
seems
then
like
he says, there's another part. It says, when a commenter argued that Russian state media was propaganda, Musk replied that all news sources are partially propaganda, some more than others. I can agree with that.
Yeah, that's true.
I think that's fine. Like the Ukrainians aren't going to be converted to pro-Russia because they're letting Russian broadcasts to exist on Starlink.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. Because I know Russia kind of got rid of all of its independent media.
Yeah, I heard that. And we were talking about how some websites got deleted and people's access to other virtual things, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's crazy, man. I'm just hoping things die down soon with Ukraine. Because I heard
me
that
too,
Russia
man.
is just getting more brutal. They're just starting to attack like civilian targets.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. That's not good.
Yeah, it's well, what they're saying is that he's starting to attack civilians because he's not having the success that he thought he would have, and he's attacking civilians to pressure Zelensky, because I think they were supposed to do some type of talk today, Zelensky and Putin. So I guess they're trying to use this as pressure. Who knows? We'll have to see.
Yeah. Well, hopefully it doesn't get any worse and the situation can be de-escalated, like we said.
Yeah, I hope so. It's I don't know. I'm wondering how long it took for Crimea. I'm just gonna take a look and see how long it took Russia to invade Crimea.
You said 3 weeks before?
No, I said it took the U.S. to take Baghdad in 3
Oh,
weeks.
right. Okay.
How long did the Crimean War last? Oh, shoot.
Okay.
That was 2 years and 5 months.
Longer than you thought?
Yeah. Wait, is this the right war? No, this is a fucking old ass war. That's not the same war.
Oh, okay.
This was a war that happened in the 1800s. Hold on a
wow.
second.
Yeah. Okay. Chris's browser crashed again, so he said to finish it without him.
No, okay. How long did Russia take to get Crimea? I just put Crimea. Annexation of Crimea. It took from February 26th, 1 month and 6 days.
Oh, okay.
So it took him 1 month and 6 days to get Crimea. If that's the case, I'm expecting it to take longer to take the rest of Ukraine.
Yeah, that would make sense. Okay.
But then again, Russia sent less troops.
Back then?
Yeah, so to Crimea, they sent upwards of 30,000.
Okay. And how many are they sending this time?
Over 100,000.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Let's see.
So
There is a lot less deaths, though. There were only casualties and losses. Actually, we're not sure yet. It says 2 soldiers killed, 80 soldiers detained. Yeah, there's definitely been more soldiers killed. There were way less people died during this war.
Okay.
Well, that's interesting. I don't know. I'm hoping those people well.
Yeah, me too.
Hear about some racism there. Did you hear about that?
No.
Apparently, I think when everyone was evacuating the city, they made sure that the white people got on the buses and trains first.
Oh, wow. That's fucking bad.
Yeah. And I was like, man, is this true? And I was looking into it because I didn't believe it at first. And apparently, like, Eastern Europeans are kind of racist.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, I guess that's what Eastern Europeans are kind of racist. Okay. Gotcha.
Well, you could, perhaps that's related to what we were talking about with the whole Great Replacement theory that was centered around
well, that was in Western Europe.
Well, immigrants to Europe. Yeah, this is Eastern Europe. That's true.
Yeah, Eastern Europe's a whole different story. Their culture is very different. Yeah, they're part of Europe, but very different culture there.
Yeah.
A lot of the European, like, Jew hatred was from Germany and east of Germany.
Yeah.
So we're talking about, like, Ukraine. Used to hate Jews. I guess they don't anymore because they elected the Jewish president. But they do have a history of it.
Right. Okay.
As I think the movie Fiddler on the Roof is based in Ukraine.
Okay.
So you've seen that movie, right? Fiddler on the Roof?
I've seen parts of it. I've never seen the whole thing because I'm not a big fan of musicals.
Yeah, so it's partially it's basically about this Jewish community that eventually gets uprooted by the government because they hate Jews, basically.
Okay.
It was like a pogrom happened, and you get to see what a fictional version of a pogrom in the town in Ukraine that happens in this movie. It's a fictional town. It's not a real town that exists.
Okay.
Well, yeah, they've had their problems with Jewish people in the past. I guess it's not that big of a thing now.
That's good.
Well, yeah. The world is a crazy place.
Sure is. Yeah, I really hope everything can be resolved, or at least to the best extent to the extent that it can, rather.
Yeah. Did your guys' gas prices go up?
Yeah, they have been a little bit for a while, I think.
Yeah. Ours went up slightly. Different story in California. I think their prices are like $2 higher than ours are, or something like that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's another consequence of the situation in Russia and Ukraine too, right? But in relation to that pipeline that we were talking about.
Well, it's disrupted the global energy supply, or oil supply at least. So much so that it's affected our gas prices, even though I don't believe we use Russian oil here.
Yeah.
But if you have a shortage in one place, it just affects everyone.
I wonder if it's actually even that, now that I think about it, that's affected our gas prices, because they've been affected before this whole situation too.
Do you guys having inflation issues also?
Yeah.
That might be it. It could be the inflation.
Yeah.
So do you guys blame the inflation on Trudeau or what?
I'm sure a lot of right-wingers did. I didn't really see that much about it.
Yeah, I think people here blame our inflation on, I think, the checks that were given out during the pandemic. I don't think that's true, but because we only gave out 2 checks. I know you guys gave out way more than 2 checks.
Yeah, it lasted for a while. I think it was maybe 3 or 4 months, maybe a little longer than that.
Yeah, so we got 2 checks. We got a few months. Everybody got checked for like a few months?
No, not everyone. Well, everyone who couldn't work at first and had been qualified for unemployment, basically.
Were you able to indulge?
No, because I do most of my tutoring like just getting paid, paid in cash, or like I don't get paid by a company. So
because you don't okay, you get paid directly.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think over here they gave it to everybody. Didn't matter if you worked or not.
Yeah, it would have been nice for that here, because I definitely could have used the money. But yeah, it was weird too, because I thought that especially during the start of the pandemic that more people would want tutoring because everyone had to be homeschooled, and I mean I offered to do it virtually too, so people wouldn't have to risk getting the Decepticons corrupting them. But less people seemed interested in it in general. I got to check into it more though. I haven't checked into it as much in a while.
Yeah, maybe the actual parents were tutoring them.
Yeah, some of them were, but I mean, lots of people work so hard all the time too, or have multiple jobs, or just have one job that they do 16-hour shifts in, or something like that.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, things are looking up. Hopefully, I haven't felt the crunch of. The only thing I'm feeling a crunch from is my medical insurance, and I have not indulged in anything. It's just that I got to pay $400 a month just to have
fucking stupid healthcare. Fucking stupid healthcare program there in the States, man.
Yeah, it's like it's basically a car payment.
Yeah, every month that everyone has to pay, whether they can afford it or not.
Well, I could have paid a cheaper one, but it's the cheaper one basically is like, oh, on paper this person has health insurance, but it's worth shit. Doesn't do jack shit.
Oh,
but they have health insurance. Mine actually is a little bit better than jack shit. So if I had anything that would cover, I'd have to, if I had a surgery and it was like $30,000, I'd have to pay like $6,000 of it.
Wow, that's still a lot, but way better than 30,000, I guess. It would be free here.
Yeah, but yeah, it is what it is. Like, I think, I don't know, healthcare, if I had free healthcare, I'd have an extra $400 a month. And mind you, I am only paying for my own healthcare. My wife's and my daughter's healthcare is on her plan.
Oh, okay.
But she's a teacher, so she gets the good ass healthcare.
Right, yeah. You mentioned that before, I remember.
Yeah, but and I worked this week, I've worked 60 hours. I'm working 60 hours.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I know you're doing extra shifts in your security guard job.
Yeah, so and I'm not wearing a mask right now.
Oh, you don't have to at your job anymore?
No, it's now optional.
That's good.
So I'm happy about that because there's nobody fucking here, so why should I have to wear a mask?
Yeah, I mean, it might make more sense if you were surrounded by people, but aren't you the only person in the entire building?
Currently, yes, but policy is policy.
Right.
And
well, yeah, that's good then.
Yeah, that's, I don't know, I just, for all the Ukrainians who may be listening to this, I feel you.
Yeah.
Russia back.
All right. Well, yeah, hopefully everything gets better and improves as much as it can with the whole situation, with everything we've been talking about. And yeah, I guess could probably end it here because we've pretty much gotten into everything that we were going to discuss. And so, yeah, thanks for talking to me, man. And thanks, Chris, also. He got booted out, but thanks for participating. Christian brothers. Always fun to talk to you guys. And yeah, thanks everyone for watching. Subscribe to the channel. Click that like button. Click the bell to be notified every time I come out with new videos. Gonna be doing another chat sometime soon with the historian Daniele Bolelli, aka Zen Punisher, soon about the whole Russian-Ukraine situation, and specifically about Putin, because I wanted to talk about his Facebook post about how Putin is a black belt in jiu-jitsu. Does doing martial arts really make you a better person? And yeah, also ideally we're gonna do our book club chat tomorrow with Parker about that book Norse Mythology by Neil Gaiman, which is his stories in that whole mythology, which are really interesting. So that'll be fun to get into, and more podcasts coming up as well. I'm gonna do that debate with Parker at some point about whether Biden's quote-unquote government crack pipes are a good or a bad thing, even though they're not actually government crack pipes, and many more videos and podcasts coming up as well. And check out my Patreon page, and the link is in the description for the video as always. Even a $1 a month is greatly appreciated. And yeah, like I always say, I love you all. Keep being the tiny beam of light that shines through the almost impenetrable darkness in the universe. And most importantly, always remember this: the funk cures all, and groove is in the heart. And like I said, hopefully everything improves with the whole Russian-Ukraine situation. And it's good that the Emergencies Act was repealed by Trudeau for the Freedom Convoy. And it seems like the State of the Union address was relatively good overall. So yeah, hopefully everything gets better, and it's good that some aspects of all of these situations are good. So yeah, all right. So also check out Dusty's channel, Woke Centrist, where we talked about Temple of the Winds last week, which is book 4 in Terry Goodkind's epic fantasy Sword of Truth series, which is kind of widely hated by uber fantasy nerds, but seems to be appreciated by kind of average Joes. And what are we going to talk about next week on your channel, Dusty?
I just finished Hitchhiker's Guide, or whatever the fuck it's called, a hunter-gatherer's guide to.
Oh, right.
What
21st century.
Yeah,
Hunter-gatherer's guide to the 21st century.
Yeah, and I upgraded it from 2 stars to 3. I think I was overly harsh about one of the arguments they made about postmodernism, which was like fucking ridiculous. He's like, oh, and that was Heather Hying she was reading. I don't know who wrote this, but she says, oh yeah, postmodernists believe that reality is socially constructed. I was like, what the fuck? I know they don't believe in that we can come to an objective view of reality, but I've never heard of them say that reality is socially constructed. No one says that the fucking moon is socially constructed.
Yeah. Well, and even if they would say that about some things, these people never get the definition of socially constructed wrong. Socially constructed just means a concept that we have agreed is real and matters to us, and that we have this concept of the moon and what it is. It's not like we imagined the moon into existence and it doesn't exist independent of our mind or anything like that.
Yeah. So I was like, I don't think that postmodernists literally think that the existence of the moon, like the physical existence of the moon, is a social construct. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Of course, that would seem ridiculous on face value. So I think that's the thing that made me give that book 2 stars the first time. I'm going to chalk it up to ignorance and just say everything else they said was kind of okay. Some of them was good. Some of it was meh. So
I just don't like the whole like aspects that we talked about, how they're basically their impressions of casual sex,
monogamy,
and BDSM and porn, that they're all bad for everyone. That shit is stupid. I don't think, like, a lot of evolutionary biologists and other people who specialize in evolution and psychology, which is kind of evolutionary psychology, which is some of what they're doing, they're disagree about that. And people disagree with some of the takes that sound like typical evolutionary psychology takes that they're kind of mentioning in there.
Yeah, we'll get into the meat and bones of this book when we talk about it next week.
So next weekend?
I had to re-listen to it just to get reacquainted. There's like some cool like anecdotal stories about like their travels and being an evolutionary biologist in the jungle. Like I loved all that stuff.
Those parts are interesting.
But we'll revisit this talk once we talk about it next week.
Cool. And I forgot to mention too, next weekend we should see if Tristram can do that chat on the Brandon Sanderson story from his Arcanum Unbounded collection called Six of the Dust, and then also talk about that teaser trailer for Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, because it confirmed some of the characters and people and races, I guess you would call them, that are going to be in it, like Galadriel, Elrond, and dwarves, and it seems like perhaps there are hobbits in there, even though that doesn't really mesh with the lore. So that'll be interesting to get into also. So hopefully either that next weekend, or if not that, then maybe we'll do that movie chat on the, of course, recently famous movie Don't Look Up, that one with Leonardo DiCaprio, Jennifer Lawrence, and many others. That's a really obvious satire of climate change and that kind of stuff. So we'll do one of those next weekend. We'll see about that.
I would say it's kind of like the modern day Idiocracy.
I agree. I really like that movie. And we'll talk about some criticisms of it too that I think are kind of unwarranted, but I really like that movie overall. But we'll talk about it.
For sure.
All right. Well, yeah. Thanks again, man. And thanks again, everyone, for watching. And adios until next time.
All right. See you guys.